Chapter 600. At this moment, there were also people walking towards the center of the Wanli Lake. Kai Lin's entire body was shivering from the cold, even though he was wearing extremely thick clothing and had a fur cloak over his head. The surface of the lake had always been much colder than the ground, especially the ice cubes under his feet. The cold air penetrated through his boots and drilled into the soles of his feet. Even a pampered and spoiled young master like Kai Lin was somewhat unable to withstand the cold. What exactly is on the surface of the lake? Kai Lin asked his scoundrel friends that he usually shared the same bad taste with. Why is it so early in the morning to let everyone look over here? Early in the morning, Kai Lin found the young masters that he usually hung out with, and originally planned to go to the gambling house to play, but who knew that his friends said that there was a big movement at the Wanli Lake, and insisted on pulling him over to take a look. Actually, I also do not know. That person said. But I heard from the servants that there was something, so I pulled you over to take a look. Haha. He leaned close to Kai Lin and whispered, normally we only hear about erotic corpses in dramas and books, but today we are able to see a real erotic corpse. Corpses? Kai Lin jumped in shock and quickly said, I am not going. Even though he usually liked to hunt for strange things, but he would only talk about liveliness, and at the end he was still somewhat timid in his bones. Even though he used to be known as a little overlord, his temper was destroyed by Xin Miao during the academy examinations 2 years ago, and now he seemed to know his place. That friend did not spare him and said, since we have already walked all the way here, just go and take a look. Just take a look. What are you afraid of? Kai Lin could not stand being agitated by others and immediately said, why would I be afraid? I will go and take a look with you now. I want to see what is it that is worth you to be so excited. Both of them had already walked more than half the way, and now they were very close to the center of the lake. When they walked to the center, there were already a lot of people pointing at them. His friend pulled Kai Lin aside from the crowd and squeezed to the front before pointing to the thing in the middle. Quickly look. It is this. Kai Lin raised his eyes and looked up. The winters in the Ding capital were cold, especially in recent times. If a bucket of water was placed outside the courtyard, it would, needless to say, turn into a bucket of ice the next day. As long as something was wet, such as a tree branch or a roof, it would be covered in ice after a night. And in the middle of the Wanli Lake, there were 3 standing ice sculptures. It wasn't accurate to call them ice sculptures. The 3 human-shaped ice blocks could clearly see the human figures on the transparent ice surface. It was also because of this that one could clearly understand that they weren't sculptures meticulously crafted by skilled craftsmen. Instead, they were real living people, or rather, they were people who had been frozen to death and turned into ice sculptures before they died. The most amazing thing was the postures of these 3 people. The one in the middle was obviously a woman. Her clothes were lightly undone, revealing more than half of her snow-white body. The man beside her was reaching out to take off her doo-doo, while the man behind her was supporting the woman's waist from behind. The woman raised her head and leaned against the man's back. Even though her expression was somewhat stiff, this ecstatic action was like a living spring scene, making one's imagination run wild. And the people who surrounded the layers of ice sculptures were mostly men. There were commoners and also rich young masters. Perhaps some were there for novelty hunting, and some had the thought that it would be a waste not to look. Even if it was a corpse, it was still a beautiful woman. Moreover, the ice sculptures were so lifelike that it did not make one feel horrified. Instead, it made one feel that there was an alluring atmosphere coming from the inside out. But the truth was ignored by others. Chapter 601. People would always place all their attention on the things that they were interested in, and the males would delightedly talk about where did this living spring scene come from, or where did they find such a dissolute female. But no one thought about what kind of case this was. 3 people were frozen to death, and it should have been a very terrible thing. Kai Lin stared at the 3 ice sculptures. He was originally somewhat afraid of corpses, but these ice sculptures did not make one feel that it was scary, but instead had a vulgar taste of the marketplace. So he looked at it. The friend beside him said, this female's birth is rather good looking. You see, How would an ordinary family be able to raise such a beauty, and even have such an alluring posture? The words were as if one was commenting on a new young lady from a brothel. Kai Lin echoed his friend's words as he carefully stared at that female's ice sculpture. Even though there was a thin layer of ice on the surface, one could vaguely see the female's facial features. The facial features were very delicate, and even somewhat familiar. Familiar? Kai Lin asked. I feel that this young lady is somewhat familiar. Think if it is a young lady from a brothel that we have seen before? That friend carefully sized it up before shaking his head. Impossible. I have been to the brothel in the Ding capital, and have seen the young ladies before, but have never seen this one before. He casually said, seeing that the dudu that one wears is inlaid with gold, perhaps she is a high-ranking official or noble from the palace. He said it unintentionally, but Kai Lin was suddenly startled. Born from the palace? He looked up at that female, and what appeared in front of him was a certain palace banquet, a young and arrogant female wearing a thin golden dress. That somewhat domineering face gradually overlapped with the stiff face in front of him, and finally became a person. Princess Mingyan. Kai Lin cried out involuntarily. What? The friend was startled for a moment. This friend was only from a wealthy merchant background, and normally would not have the opportunity to come into contact with the high-ranking officials and noble people in the palace. Thus he did not understand what Kai Lin was talking about. Kai Lin's expression instantly changed. He finally understood why he felt that this female corpse was somewhat familiar. Previously at the Ming Qi's tribute banquet, because he paid attention to Shin Miao and competed with Shin Miao in archery, he had also paid attention to Princess Mingyan. At that time Kai Lin felt that he was in the same boat as Princess Mingyan. And who else could it be if it was not Princess Mingyan? Who else could it be in the ice sculpture that posed in an erotic posture with the two males? Even though Kai Lin's words were not echoed by his friends, the surrounding people with sharp ears heard it, and asked him one after another. The Princess Mingyan that you are talking about, is it that Princess Mingyan from the Qing country? Really? The woman inside is Princess Mingyan? How could a princess of a country be like this? It must be fake. Now that you mention it, this woman really does look like a princess. The uproar on the Wanli Lake in the Ding capital, Princess Mingyan and the two males in an extremely erotic position was talked about by the common people of Mingqi, and it quickly spread to the palace. Naturally it also spread to the Shen mansion, because Shen Miao spoke with Xie Jingxing in the middle of the night. She could not fall asleep, and only fell asleep when the sky was slightly bright, so she lazily got up. Jingzhe and Guyu saw that Shen Miao was sleeping soundly, and did not dare to disturb her. When Shen Miao woke up to eat breakfast, it was already very late. She was drinking the porridge that was made in the kitchen, and thinking about Xie Jingxing's words last night, when she saw Luo Tan rushing in from outside. These days Luo Tan's injuries were much better under Gao Yang's treatment. Even though Gao Yang kept emphasizing that Luo Tan should recuperate well. But how could Luo Tan have a calm temperament, and still did what she should do? Sometimes it almost made one suspect if the person who almost lost her life a few days ago was her. Biao youngest sister. Biao youngest sister. Luo Tan rushed in, and sat opposite Shen Miao. Shen Miao did not even lift her eyes, and just ate the porridge in her mouth. These days Shen Xian did not allow Luo Tan and Shen Miao to go out, so that they would not meet with bad people like the last time. Thus Luo Tan had to stay in the residence, and was strangely bored all day long. Every time Shen Miao met Luo Tan, it was as if Luo Tan was the younger sister. Thus she was much more tolerant. Biao youngest sister, do not eat first. Listen to me about a big matter. Luo Tan sat upright. Shen Miao was helpless and put down the spoon in her hands. What is it now? Princess Mingyan is dead, Luo Tan said. Early in the morning, her body was found on the Wanli Lake with two males, doing that kind of thing. But one do not know why she was frozen into ice. Now the entire capital is talking about this matter. Chapter 602. Princess Mingyan was dead. Shen Miao was startled for a moment. Luo Tan said it over and over again, and it was not clear, but Shen Miao understood most of it. There was no doubt that Princess Mingyan's death was Xie Jingxing's doing. As for the two males that were mentioned, Shen Miao almost immediately thought of the Xie brothers. As she thought about it, she could not help but gasp. One had to say that Xie Jingxing was indeed a vicious and merciless person. If Princess Ming'an was killed normally, then there would not be any problem. But to place Princess Ming'an and the Xie brothers together in such an erotic way, the focus of the public was not on the fact that she was killed, but the personal relationship between Princess Ming'an and the Xie brothers. Admittedly, perhaps all of this was the murderer's doing, but as compared to a cold investigation, it was easier for the public to talk about such an erotic case. In any case, even if Huang Fuhao or Emperor Wen Hui used force to suppress it, or come forward to clarify, others would not believe it. Princess Ming'an was a princess of a country, but she was like a female in a brothel that everyone looked at. One feared that if this matter were to be spread back to the Qing country, it would be a joke in the Qing country. Xie Jingxing was indeed a person who was not soft-hearted. As for the Xie brothers, Shen Miao's thoughts slightly sank. Perhaps Huang Fuhao would be furious, but no one could prove that the Xie brothers really forced Princess Ming'an, because the Xie brothers were also dead. Huang Fuhao could not take it out on the Marquis of Lin, and because the Marquis of Lin had lost 2 sons in succession, and was very tragic. When Luo Tan saw Shen Miao's thoughtful look, she could not help but ask, "Biao youngest sister, did you guess something? Who do you think the person behind the scenes is, to actually be so daring?" Shen Miao smiled gently. "I am not good at investigating cases. If one wants to know the result, one can just look at how the Supreme Court of Justice investigates the case. No matter what, Luo Tan was a straightforward person. I do not sympathize with her at all. That princess is arrogant and domineering, and one heard that she holds grudges the most. If she was still alive, there would be a day where she would find Biao youngest sister's fault. So it is rather good like this. One do not know which hero is it, to get rid of the evil for the people." Luo Tan rubbed her fists and palms, as if she wanted to make friends with that person. Shen Miao glanced at her and said, "You are very fond of people who commit murder and arson. You are quite broad-minded." Luo Tan said, "Our Luo family has always made a clear distinction between gratitude and grudges." She suddenly paused her words and said, "Talking about clearly distinguishing gratitude and grudges, previously when you were abducted, I went to seek Prince Rue of the Great Liang for help, and in the end he still immediately rescued you. In the future when you are free, youngest Biao sister must not forget to thank him." "Shen Miao, thank you for your concern." Luo Tan patted her shoulder, but heard Jingzhe walking in from outside and said with a smile, "Young Lady Luo, Imperial Physician Gao is here to take your pulse." Luo Tan's face instantly changed and she immediately stood up and said to Shen Miao, "That Biao youngest sister, I will leave first. Think again about Princess Ming'an's matter today. If there is any result, tell me about it. I really want to find that brother." Finishing, she was like a mouse that saw a cat as she lifted her skirt and ran away. Shen Miao looked at Luo Tan's back and sighed as her gaze gradually sank. For Xie Jingxing to make such a big movement, naturally it was to vindicate one's resentment. However, she was after all a princess of a country, and this matter involved many people. So would it really pass by peacefully? Shen Miao did not think so. The matter of Princess Ming'an and the Xie brothers being turned into ice sculptures in the Ding capital quickly spread throughout the entire Ding capital. The people from the Yamen quickly drove away the commoners around the Wanli Lake and released the 3 of them. When Huang Fuhao saw Princess Ming'an's corpse, he flew into a rage as expected, and even Emperor Wen Hui could not withstand his anger. Chapter 603. Huang Fuhao's face was so gloomy that water could drip out. He sneered. "In His Majesty's territory, my Qing country's princess was actually insulted to death. Bengong cannot help but suspect Ming Qi's intentions. Perhaps this consort should quickly report this matter to Imperial Father, and have him make a decision." Emperor Wen Hui pressed his forehead. Huang Fuhao's somewhat threatening words made him very unhappy, as if he did not put him, the Emperor of Mingqi, in his eyes. But this matter happened so suddenly that even Emperor Wen Hui himself did not know why such a thing would happen. The Marquis of Lin and Xieding also knelt down, and said with tears flowing down his old face, "Begging your majesty to investigate the matter thoroughly. Give justice to this old official's son." The civil and military officials in the throne room were all sighing. In the beginning, the residence of the Marquis of Lin and was filled with flowers, and the young Marquis of Lin and was so high-spirited that he could even find an excuse to not listen to the emperor's orders, and finally married Ming-Chi's noble princess Yuqing. But ever since the time of Princess Yuqing, the residence of the Marquis of Lin and seemed to have lost its vitality and gradually declined. Princess Yuqing's flesh and blood Xie Jingxing was a rare talent, but was also buried in the battlefield by the yellow sand. Previously Emperor Wen Hui also planned to deal with the residence of the Marquis of Linen, but after seeing Xie Jingxing's death, the Marquis of Linen was almost tormented by himself. Thus he gradually no longer paid attention to the residence of the Marquis of Linen. Now that the two remaining Shu sons of the Marquis of Lin and had died so tragically, there was no successor for the huge residence of the Marquis of Linen, and in the future it would disappear in the torrent of Ming-Chi's history. Everyone couldn't help but feel sorrowful when they recalled the glory of the past, and looked at the gloomy state they were in today. Huang Fuhao secretly glanced at Xie Ding, a trace of malice in his eyes. No matter if the Xie brothers were the ones who were killed, or if they were put in such a position after death, there was no doubt that Princess Ming-En's innocence and dignity was destroyed because of the Xie brothers. Even though the people behind the scenes were hateful, but the Xie family could not be let off. When had the imperial family of the Qin country ever suffered such humiliation? Huang Fuhao looked at Xie Ding and made up his mind. Emperor Wen Hui had a headache and waved his hands to indicate everyone to be quiet before speaking in a deep voice. This matter is very bad. Someone committed such a heinous crime under the feet of the Son of Sun. This is the most heinous crime. Zhen have already sent the people from the Supreme Court to investigate the case, and will definitely catch the person behind the scenes, and give everyone an explanation. Although he said so, Huang Fuhao was not very happy. He cupped his hands and said, "Since the Princess of Qin is in trouble, I hope your majesty will agree to let the people of Qin investigate this matter. Else in the future when one return and imperial father ask, imperial father would not be able." His words actually showed that he did not believe that the Ming-Chi would investigate the matter thoroughly. Emperor Wen Hui suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Since that is the case, Jin approve." Ming was, he said. Ming and said, "Wen Yi Hao Qing, he. But the Marquis of Linen was after all an aristocratic family of Ming-Chi, and when he met with this misfortune, everyone came forward to comfort him. Amidst the comforting crowd, someone walked past Huang Fuhao and warmly said, "Crown Prince, please restrain your grief." This person was Prince Ding Fuxiuyi. Huang Fuhao was in a state of anger, and when he saw Fuxiuyi, his expression did not turn for the better as he cupped his hands and was about to leave. But he heard Fuxiuyi speaking softly from behind, regarding the matter of the princess being killed. This one also have some thoughts. One do not know if the crown prince is willing to hear it. Huang Fuhao was surprised for a moment. At this moment the officials were busy comforting the Marquis of Linen, and they happened to walk to the corner, so no one saw the actions between the two of them. Huang Fuhao sneered and asked, "Could it be that Prince Ding has any brilliant ideas?" One only found something strange. Fuxiuyi smiled without much care. If the crown prince is interested, this one is willing to explore with the crown prince when there is free time. Shen Miao said, "But I have nothing to do with this matter, and even if they investigate, they would not be able to link it to me, right?" Actually what Shen Qiu said, how could Shen Miao not have thought of it? Xie Jingxing could seal the mouths of the entire Ding capital, and let the people in the Ding capital not be able to find any clues. But what would Huang Fuhao think in his heart? This was something that Xie Jingxing could not stop. Chapter 605. You really have that much confidence? Shen Qiu asked. Shen Miao said, "Do not worry, eldest brother. This matter really has nothing to do with me. Shen Xiu then gave a slight sigh of relief. These days you better not go out of the residence. The Ding capital is not peaceful, and moreover there are some people with ulterior motives. The residence has already increased the guards, so it should be safe. Shen Miao nodded her head. Shen Xiu stood up. He still had military matters to attend to and had to rush back. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Shen Miao. Younger sister, do you know any powerful and influential people? Shen Miao's heart slightly moved, but her face was calm as she shook her head. Never. Shen Xiu did not say anything more and turned to leave. In fact, Shen Xiu's worries were not wrong. This night, there was a special guest in the residence of Prince Ding. This distinguished guest was not someone else, but the crown prince of the Qing country, Huang Fuhao, who was incomparably furious because of his younger sister's tragic death. In the throne room, Fu Xiuyi and Huang Fuhao's fluttering words finally made the suspicious Huang Fuhao decide to make this trip. Before Huang Fuhao came, Fu Xiuyi let Pei Lang hide in the next room and listened to their conversation through the open dark window. Huang Fuhao put down the teacup in his hands heavily and did not dawdle with Fu Xiuyi as he went straight to the point. Prince Ding previously said that there is something fishy about my younger sister. Is it possible to explain? Why is the crown prince so anxious? Fu Xiuyi smiled faintly. I also deeply regret that Princess Mingyan was killed. But the current plan is not to immediately catch the murderer. Huang Fuhao's brows wrinkled and looked at Fu Xiuyi with a sneer. Could it be that Prince Ding also think that Ben Gong should keep the peace? One do not know what kind of rules your Ming Qi has, but in the Qing country, the murder of a princess is a major event. Even if one were to keep the peace, in the future when Imperial Father knows of the matter, he would definitely seek justice from your emperor. It is only a tribute banquet, but my Qing country's princess lost her life here. Does Prince Ding feel that this is reasonable? There was a faint threat in his words. Fu Xiuyi shook his head. Since the crown prince is so anxious, then I will not speak in riddles with the crown prince. In general, there is always a reason for a murder case. In this matter, it looked like the Xie brothers and Princess Mingyan were killed together. But the other party placed the corpses in such a position to humiliate, and it was obvious that they deliberately wanted to ruin Princess Mingyan's reputation. That is to say, the other party is obviously targeting Princess Mingyan. Huang Fuhao sneered. Of course I know. To dare to do such a thing, you really have guts. There is no harm for the crown prince to think, in Ming Qi, who would have such enmity with Princess Mingyan. Huang Fuhao was stunned for a moment before he frowned and fell into deep thought. Princess Mingyan had an arrogant temperament and would usually scold or beat the servants. Thus there were naturally a lot of people who had complaints against her. But ever since she entered the Ming Qi, because of her imperial father's strict orders, one must not get into a deadlock with Emperor Wen Hui. Thus Princess Mingyan was able to restrain herself. Thus even though Princess Mingyan's actions were presumptuous, to the Ming Qi's officials, she did not offend anyone. Unless, Huang Fuhao suddenly thought of something. His eyes lit up and he asked in a deep voice, You mean Shen Miao? Fu Xiuyi smiled but did not speak. Impossible, Huang Fuhao said. Even if she had enmity with Mingyan, and Mingyan had teased her, but Shen Miao was only a female, and there were guards by Mingyan's side. How could Shen Miao deal with them? Fu Xiuyi smiled and shook his head. Shen Miao cannot. But you must not forget that she is Shen Xian's daughter. How does Shen Xian treat this daughter? During the tribute banquet, the crown prince had personally seen it. Chapter 606. Huang Fuhao remembered that on the day of the tribute banquet, when Princess Mingyan and Shen Miao were in a deadlock, Shen Xian as her father stood on Shen Miao's side from the beginning to the end, and did not hesitate to ignore Emperor Wen Hui's expression to show a tough stance. If Shen Xian stood up for his daughter, it was not impossible for Shen Xian's subordinates to act. What about the bastard son of the Xie family? Huang Fuhao said in a deep voice. Even if Shen Xian stood up for Shen Miao, he would not involve the Xie family for no reason. Xie Ding is still an official in Ming Qi, so Shen Xian will not seek trouble. Fu Xiuyi sighed. Does Crown Prince still not understand? In those days, I originally let the Xie brothers entertain Princess Mingyan, and Princess Mingyan was with the Xie brothers. The crown prince and the princess were siblings, so he knew the princess's temperament. Shen Miao and Princess Mingyan were in discord, and if Princess Mingyan wanted to deal with Shen Miao, it was understandable. It is just that the princess is after all a Qing country's people and Shen Miao is an official's daughter, so it would be inconvenient to take action. The Xie brothers were used well. Huang Fuhao was stunned and said angrily, "Don't tell me you're saying." "Don't be angry, Crown Prince. I originally wanted to nurture the Xie brothers so that they could be my assistants in the future. However, these two people probably don't have the fate to achieve meteoric success. You should understand what happened next. It was probably because the Xie brothers made a mistake when they attacked, so they were the ones who died in the end. They even implicated the princess." Although Huang Fuhao still had a look of disbelief on his face, he had already begun to ponder in his heart. First, Shen Miao was abducted for no reason, and at that time Huang Fuhao suspected that it was done by Princess Mingyan. But afterwards, seeing that Princess Mingyan did not leave the residence, and did not know anyone in Mingqi, he did not think much about it. Afterwards, Shen Miao was inexplicably sent back to the Shen mansion by that nuisance Princess Rong Xian. And then something happened to Princess Mingyan and the Xie brothers. What Fu Xiaoyi said was not wrong. Princess Mingyan had a very vengeful character, and if she was previously embarrassed by Shen Miao, she would not have ended the matter so easily. It was true that the Xie brothers often appeared in the residence during those days. If it was for this reason, it was understandable. But was Shen Miao really that capable? Huang Fuhao felt that something was not right in his heart. Even if Shen Xian doted on Shen Miao and had this ability, it was not a wise move to openly go against a country's princess. Especially now that Shen Xian had just returned to the capital, many things were still not stable. Even if he did not think for himself, he had to think for the other people of the Shen family. Was Shen Xian so stupid? For the sake of his daughter, he would even throw away his rationality? Huang Fuhao did not listen to anything that Fu Xiaoyi said. He felt that Fu Xiaoyi's words were somewhat reasonable, but his heart was hesitant. Seeing that Huang Fuhao was uneasy, Fu Xiaoyi did not say anything more. After Fu Xiaoyi left, Pei Lang came out from behind the screen. "What is the meaning of your highness?" Pei Lang asked. "Why do you want to lead the conversation to the Shen family?" Fu Xiaoyi looked at Pei Lang and shook his head. "Teacher does not know about this. I thought that Shen Miao might have some involvement with the great Liang's Prince Rui." Pei Lang's heart skipped a beat, but he maintained a calm expression on his face. "Your Highness is still hesitating over the matter of the Crown Prince's residence. Prince Rui is from the Great Liang dynasty, and Shen Miao had left the capital 2 years ago, so there is no possibility of both of them knowing each other. It would be too far-fetched to say that they were acquainted in these short few months. I know that teacher finds the matter inconceivable," Fu Xiaoyi said, "but I have an intuition. There is something fishy between Shen Miao and Prince Rui. There were many coincidences that happened in these days. It was because if Shen Miao and Prince Rui were only acquainted in these short few months, then it would be worth pondering. Prince Rui is proud and arrogant, and even Imperial Father could not get close to him. I also want to know what ability Shen Miao has." Chapter 607. Pei Lang frowned and asked, "What does that have to do with the Crown Prince's matter today?" Fu Xiaoyi smiled and looked at Pei Lang. "Teacher think that Shen Miao alone would not be able to do such a thing, and Shen Xian is not a hot-headed and impulsive person. Just based on the Shen family alone, one would not be able to do such a rash act of killing and robbing." Pei Lang suddenly understood. "Could it be that your highness thinks?" "Correct," Fu Xiaoyi said. "I suspect that this matter is done by Prince Rui." Pei Lang did not speak anymore. Seeing Pei Lang's silence, Fu Xiaoyi took the initiative to mention, "Prince Rui's actions are insolent, and the Great Liang has many talented people. Thinking about it, with Prince Rui's ability, killing a princess would be an easy matter. It is just that both of us know that Prince Rui and Princess Mingyan have no enmity, and have no connection with the Xie family, so it is impossible for him to find trouble for himself without any reason. But if it is because of Shun Miao, then everything makes sense. He smiled faintly. Even though there is a saying in this world that one would fly into a rage for a beauty, but I do not think so. There must be some special relationship between Prince Rui and Shun Miao. So your highness had Crown Prince Qin make a move to lure the snake out of its hole? Pei Lang asked. Not bad. Fu Xiui said with a smile. Huang Fu Hao is naturally suspicious, and even if he does not believe my words, he will have more suspicions in his heart, and one day he will make a move to probe. If Prince Rui is really involved with Shun Miao, he would definitely make a move. At that time, one would know the relationship between the both of them, and then make other plans. Pei Lang asked, if Prince Rui did not make a move, then what would happen? There is no harm. Fu Xiui said. If Prince Rui did not take action, the Shin family had already gone overboard these days. It is a good thing for us to let Huang Fu Hao deal with the Shin family and suppress the Shin family's strength. Your Highness has already decided to suppress the Shin family? Pei Lang looked at him. Since you can't be of use to me, I naturally won't leave behind any future troubles. Fu Xiui smiled warmly, but his tone was extremely cold. He turned to look at Pei Lang and said, in the future, we will still need Mr. Immerse to come up with a plan. Pei Lang repeatedly said that he did not dare. When Fu Xiui left, Pei Lang returned to his room and looked at the lights in front of him and could not help but sigh. 2 years ago Shin Miao let him lurk beside Fu Xiui to be an informant, and Pei Lang had no choice but to go. He himself also had some skills, and was lucky enough to gain Fu Xiuyi's favor. Now Fu Xiui regarded Pei Lang as the #1 confidant. Just like today when he and Huang Fu Hao were playing the third flower secretly, Fu Xiui did not deceive Pei Lang at all, and instead trusted him. Perhaps this was really because Fu Xiui did not guard against Pei Lang at all. Of course it could be because of Fu Xiuyi's skill in controlling his subordinates. If a normal person saw their master treating them so generously, they would definitely have a more loyal heart. If Pei Lang was not Shin Miao's person, the more he interacted with Fu Xiui, the more Pei Lang was amazed. Fu Xiui was indeed a person who had the wisdom and the viciousness of a real man. Hiding a dagger in his smile or willing to be mediocre, he indeed had the means that an emperor should have. Pei Lang even felt that after a few more years or decades, the world would eventually fall into the hands of Fu Xiui, and Fu Xiui would eventually become the master of the world. There was no other reason, but among the princes of Mingqi, there was no one more suitable than Fu Xiui for this position. But Shen Miao purposely wanted to go against Fu Xiui. Pei Lang was not optimistic about Shen Miao, which also meant that he was not optimistic about himself. It was not that he did not selfishly think of defecting, but Shen Miao firmly grasped his Achilles' heel. Thus this little bit of unwillingness could only drift away with the wind. He took a glance out of the window. Fu Xiui treated him extremely well. In a separate room, there were no spies placed to guard against him. Pei Lang took a piece of paper from the table and grinded it before picking up a brush and quickly writing. The night was as dark as ink. In the residence of Prince Rui, Xie Jingxing was teasing the white tiger at his feet. The white tiger had eaten a lot recently and was fed by Ji Yushu 5 meals a day. Its body started to swell rapidly and was like an out-and-out fur ball. Even when it was playing, it was not as agile as in the past and always had a look of stupidity. Xie Jingxing was such a picky person that he was too lazy to even carry it and was rather perfunctory when teasing it. A male who looked like a guard walked in from outside and was much younger than Tai Yi. He took out a letter from his bosom and handed it to Xie Jingxing. This is a letter that came out from the residence of Prince Ding, and is from Prince Ding's aide Pei Lang. It is to be sent to the hands of 5th Shin young lady of the Shin mansion. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows and took out the letter from the envelope. He quickly scanned through it, and when he saw the last line of words, his lips suddenly hooked up. In the night, his brows were as handsome as a painting and his purple gold robe was overflowing with color, as if he was a person in a painting wearing embroidered clothes. It was clearly a casual smile, but Nanqi shivered slightly as he sensitively sensed that his master was unhappy again. The last line of words was, "Be sure to stay away from Prince Rui." Chapter 608. The matter of Princess Ming and in the Ding capital had set off an uproar among the commoners, but the people from the Supreme Court of Justice were unable to find any results after a long time. Emperor Wenhui would get angry every few days and even implicated a number of officials, but there was a faint unsettled result. The crown prince of the Qing country, Huang Fuhao, was naturally dissatisfied, but the people that he sent out did not find anything wrong. As time passed, the common people's enthusiasm for this matter gradually faded. After all, one had to eat and live, and one could not withstand the cold of winter, even if one guarded an unsettled case. In the cold winter days of the Ding capital, there was a big matter in the Shen residence. Shen Yu was engaged and would soon be married off. The family that Shen Yu was talking about was the Minister of Land, the Wang family that Shen Wan and Chen Roqiu favored. The Wang family only had 2 sons, and the younger son was not even 10 years old. The eldest son was Wang Bai, the person who was engaged to Shen Yu. Wang Bai was 24 this year, and had already entered officialdom, holding a position in the scholar's residence. He was knowledgeable, and was a person with boundless prospects. Even though the position of the Minister of Land was not one of the most important officials in the court, it was inevitable that the colleagues would have more dealings with the Minister of Land. If one was related to the Wang family, there would be a lot of help in one's future career. The help in one's career was naturally seen through Shen Wan's eyes. From Chen Roqiu's point of view, Wang Bai was the eldest son of the Wang family, and currently there were no Tongfang concubines in the residence. Coincidentally, Shen Yu was well educated and had a strong bookish taste, so if she was able to marry over, she would be able to hold on to Wang Bai's heart, and in the future she would be able to stand firm in the Wang family and give birth to a son and a daughter. Then she would be able to rest easy for the rest of her life. The marriage was directly set by Chen Roqiu and the Wang family, and the gung card was changed. When Shen Yu knew about the matter, she naturally made a big fuss. It was just that the usually gentle Chen Roqiu seemed to be determined to marry her off, and Shen Wan, who had always doted on her, did not listen to Shen Yu's pleas. Old Shen Foreign was even more happy to see it happen. If Shen Yu did not marry in the Shen residence, she would have one more mouth to eat, and now the days in the Shen residence were difficult. Shen Yu was too noisy, and even if Shen Wan usually did not punish his daughter, this time he felt that Shen Yu was too much, and in a fit of anger, he locked Shen Yu in the ancestral hall and wanted Shen Yu to reflect on herself. This night, Shen Yu sat alone in the ancestral hall and cried silently. There were traces of fire in the ancestral hall. It was ironic to say that the last time Shen Miao was locked up in this ancestral hall, Ren Wanyin attempted to make Shen Miao marry and take the opportunity to exchange marriage with Shen Qing, who knew that there was a fire midway, and coincidentally Shen Xian left the capital at that time, thus Shen Miao escaped a calamity. Shen Yu looked at the tightly closed doors of the ancestral hall. It seemed that from that time onwards, everything went smoothly for Shen Miao, because Shen Xian and wife and Shen Qiu were behind Shen Miao to support her. Shen Miao was unscrupulous in whatever she did. Shen Yu believed that if there was a day that Shen Miao wanted to marry Fu Xiuyi, Shen Xian and wife would not be like Chen Roqiu, and Shen Wan to stop it. And Shen Miao indeed admired Fu Xiuyi in the past, and if there was a day that Shen Miao's old love was rekindled, and the current Shen Xian made a comeback with power in his hands, would Fu Xiuyi reject? Moreover, Shen Miao was no longer the idiot that was ridiculed by the entire capital 2 years ago. Once she thought that Shen Miao might be together with Fu Xiuyi, Shen Yu's heart was particularly uncomfortable. She unwillingly thought, why did Shen Miao not burn to death during the fire in the ancestral hall? Just as she was thinking, she heard the sound of the doorknob moving outside. Shen Yu thought that it was Chen Roqiu who sent someone to deliver food to her, and said in a fit of pique, I do not want anything. Go out. That sound continued, and Shen Yu angrily said, ask you to scram. Chapter 609. The door creaked open and a head popped out. It was Shen Dongling. The moment she saw Shen Dongling, Shen Yu was also surprised for a moment. Shen Dongling looked outside and suddenly closed the door and walked to Xinyu. After thinking for a while, she also sat down on the floor and handed the basket in her hands to Xinyu before softly saying, "The old woman guarding outside had gone to drink, and I sneaked in. Knowing that you had not eaten for a day, I was afraid that you would be hungry, so I sent you something to eat. Second sister, you must lower your voice." Xinyu was startled for a moment and saw that Shen Dongling had already opened the bamboo basket and took out stacks and stacks of snacks. Even if Xinyu was only perfunctory towards Shen Dongling on normal days, there was a trace of being touched now. Thinking that she had not eaten for a day and Chun Ro Chiu and Shenwan did not care about it, but this Shu younger sister whom she did not have a deep relationship with was concerned, her expression towards Shen Dongling became warmer. However, he couldn't eat those pastries no matter what. She said, "Don't waste your energy, I really can't eat anymore." Shen Dongling looked at her. Why is second sister not willing to marry young Master Wang? Wang Gongzi is a good person, and I heard that his family background is good. If second sister goes there, she will be the mistress of the family. Is it because you don't want to leave the Shen family? Xinyu glanced at Shen Dongling. Most likely Shen Dongling stayed in the residence and did not go out much. She was obviously around the same age as Xinyu, but her face had the innocence of a child. Xinyu's heart was despising and envious at the same time. Despising Shen Dongling for being a frog in the well, and not knowing that there was always someone better than her in the heavens. Just one Wang Bai was able to move her, and on the other hand, she was envious of Shen Dongling's pure mind, which was more relaxed and happy. Seeing Shen Dongling's appearance, Xinyu suddenly had the urge to spit it out. She smiled bitterly and said, "What does it have to do with me whether he is a good person or not? After all, he is not that person in my heart." Shen Dongling thought for a while and suddenly said, "Could it be? Second sister already has someone in your heart? So what if I am? So what if I'm not?" Xinyu smiled bitterly. "Who asked me to be born in the Shen family, and do not even have the right to choose my future husband? Father and mother only cared about their own careers, and didn't care about what I thought. Sometimes, I feel that I might as well be dead." Shen Dongling jumped in fright, and hurriedly waved her hands, saying, "Second Jejia, don't think like that. You have to know that in this world, death is the cheapest, but there's nothing left after death. Why don't Jejia change your way of thinking? You should know that the Wang family is not a bad family. Third uncle and third aunt will not harm you. Perhaps that young Master Wang is also the ideal man in many girls' hearts. Perhaps many girls are envious of second older sister's luck. Take me for example. If I could marry into the Wang family, my aunt would probably go to the temple every day to thank Bodhisattva for granting me such a good marriage." Xinyu shook her head and smiled as she felt that Shen Dongling was somewhat stupid. She and Shen Dongling could not be reasoned with. Especially when he saw Shen Dongling's envious expression. He felt that Shen Dongling was even more inferior. Thinking about it, as a concubine's daughter, it was already good enough to be the legal wife, not to mention the legal wife of the minister counselor. Shen Dongling saw that Xinyu was still depressed and her brows turned. When the car arrives at the mountain, there will always be a way. Second older sister need not be sad and troubled over this matter. It is not worth it to tire out one's body, just like fifth younger sister at that time. At that time when fifth younger sister was engaged, one heard that fifth younger sister also made a fuss, and seeing that there was no room to turn things around, who knew that eldest Bo and eldest Shun would return and fifth younger sister would naturally be fine. Shen Dongling's words were somewhat muddled, but Xinyu's heart moved when she heard it. At that time Shen Miao was about to be married, but because Shen Xian and wife returned to the capital, she escaped a calamity. At that time Xinyu was also eavesdropping on Chun Ro Chiu's conversation with the servants, and knew that Ren Wanyin had the idea of exchanging marriage for Xin Qing and Shen Miao. Chapter 610. Since Xin Qing and Shen Miao could exchange marriage, then why could she not? Xinyu's heart became excited, and a thought from a long time ago gradually surfaced in her mind. Her gaze turned to Shen Dongling who was beside her. As for the candidate, wasn't there a ready-made one in front of her? Shen Dongling was a Shu daughter, and Shen Dongling felt that the gentleman of the Wang family was very good. Shen Dongling's character was weak and easily deceived. There was no one more suitable than Shen Dongling in front of her. Shen Yu looked at Shen Dongling, and suddenly grabbed Shen Dongling's hand and said softly, "Third younger sister, how do you think I treat you?" Shen Dongling was surprised for a moment before lowering her head, and said with some shame, "Second older sister did not despise my birth, and treated me very well. In the entire Shen residence, only second older sister was willing to talk to me." Shen Yu had always put on a noble and generous appearance, and even if she looked down on Shen Dongling in her heart, she would not show it at all on her face. Instead, she looked like she treated Shen Dongling well. Especially after the last time, Shen Yu would look for Shen Dongling every 3 to 5 days to talk. From an outsider's point of view, the relationship between these two was not bad. Hearing that, Shen Yu smiled and said, "Then third younger sister, now that I am in trouble, are you willing to help me with something?" Shen Dongling smiled without any scheming. "No problem. As long as I can do it, I will definitely do my best for second older sister." Shen Yu smiled. "Hearing your words, I am relieved." She held Shen Dongling's hand tighter. Can you help me marry to Wang Bai?" Upon hearing these words, Shen Dongling was stunned. After being stunned for a moment, she wanted to pull her hand back from Shen Yu's and said in a panic, "This cannot be done. Second older sister, I can help you with other matters. I am also unable to help with this matter." "You can." Shen Yu did not let go and said anxiously, "Don't you also feel that gentleman Wang is very good? Didn't you say that if you were to get this marriage, your Inyang would also be happy for it? Third younger sister, I beg you." "Be that as it may." Shen Dongling kept retreating. "But this is too risky. If it is discovered, I will be beaten to death, and second older sister, you will also be punished. This is too risky. Second sister, you don't have to take such a big risk. Why can't you marry young Master Wang?" Shen Yu looked at Shen Dongling, and 2 lines of tears immediately flowed down. She was born to be gentle and delicate, so her tears actually made people feel a little sad. And Shen Yu's voice was filled with despair as she said, "Third younger sister, A is honey and B is arsenic. To you it is a good marriage, but to me it is not. I already have someone I like, and I've decided that I won't marry anyone else but him. If I can't marry him and have to marry someone else, it will be a dead end for me. I will definitely end my own life on that day." Shen Yu looked at Shen Dongling for a while, and suddenly stood up and knelt down towards Shen Dongling with a plop sound. She said, "If you do not agree, then it means to end my life. Third younger sister, on the account that we are sisters and on the account that only I treat you well in the entire Shen residence, I beg you to save my life." The moment Shen Dongling saw Shen Yu kneeling down, she was stunned, and upon hearing Shen Yu's words, she was so flustered that she did not know what to do. She pulled Shen Yu up and said, "Second older sister, don't be like this. Don't scare me." Shen Yu pulled Shen Dongling's hands. "Third younger sister, second older sister will beg you this time. Could it be that you want to see me become a skeleton this time?" Shen Dongling bit her lips as she looked at her. Shen Yu's hair was disheveled, and her eyes were hazy with tears. She was really forced to a desperate situation, and under her helplessness, she could only reluctantly nod her head and said, "I promise you. Second older sister, get up first." Chapter 611. Shen Yu's eyes brightened as she rushed up to hug Shen Dongling, and hurriedly thanked her, as if she was really grateful to the bones. However, with her back facing Shen Dongling, there was a somewhat proud smile on her face. "It is just that, second older sister, it is better to discuss this matter at length," Shen Dongling said. "After all, the matter of exchanging the marriage is not a small matter, and once the matter is exposed, we will not be able to gain any benefits. Moreover, third Shu and third Shun will definitely see it. Thus it is better to discuss it in detail." Shen Yu let go of Shen Dongling and said excitedly, "That is natural." She looked at Shen Dongling, held Shen Dongling's hand and said, "Don't worry, third sister. Since you did this for me, I will definitely explain it clearly. I forced you to do this. I won't let father and mother blame you. I won't let you be implicated in the slightest. Shen Dongling smiled. I believe in second older sister. The night was as dark as ink, and when Shen Dongling returned to her own bedroom in Kai Yun Yuan, Wan Yinyang was already asleep. Shen Dongling sneaked out behind Wan Yinyang's back, and Wan Yinyang thought that Shen Dongling had already rested. Shen Dongling's maid Xinghua asked, "Young lady really want to help second young lady marry?" "Marry? Why not marry?" Shen Dongling looked at Xinghua as she closed the door and sat on the couch. She picked up the teacup in front of her, and leisurely took a sip before revealing a completely different smile. She said, "The Wang family is an official family, and Wang Bai's future official career is boundless, and the inner courtyard is peaceful. Based on my background, it is impossible for me to marry into the Wang family in this lifetime. Since there is such an opportunity, one would be a fool not to grasp it firmly." "In that case," Xinghua smiled, "second young lady can be considered to have done a good deed." "Good deed?" Shen Dongling's smile was somewhat sarcastic. "Could it be that you think that in this Shen residence, there is really someone who is as kind as a fairy?" The maid was surprised for a moment and was somewhat puzzled. "Young lady's meaning is, I will spare no effort to help her, but you need to know that once the exchange of marriage is exposed, the first thing that Xinyu would do is to splash the dirty water onto me. It must be me who thought of ways to snatch her marriage, and she, Xinyu, would feel wronged. Even if the second branch knew the reason, in order to prevent the Wang clan from becoming enemies with them, they would still blame me. As for old foreign," Shen Dongling sneered, "a Shu daughter is naturally not as important as a D daughter in her eyes. No matter what, I'm the one to be sacrificed." A look of disbelief rose on Xinghua's face as she said, "But previously second young lady said that she will clarify for young lady, and will not let young lady bear the blame for nothing. Is Xinyu such a kind-hearted person?" Shen Dongling shook her head and smiled. "Everyone in this residence is selfish. What makes you think that Xinyu is such a selfless person? If she was really so selfless, she wouldn't have asked me to marry someone for her." "Since that is the case," Xinghua asked, "does young lady still want to substitute in marriage? What should we do if all the dirty water is poured onto Miss?" Shen Dongling smiled indifferently. "Don't worry, since I can marry her, I must have made full preparations." "Xinghua, you must remember that everyone in this Shen residence are all jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards. If one wants to do something, it is better to do it yourself than to beg others. Just like fifth younger sister, she has done very well. So once there is a chance to leave the Shen residence, I will not be reluctant." Xinghua nodded her head as if she understood something, and suddenly thought of something before asking, "Do you want to tell Yinyang about this matter?" "No need," Shen Dongling flatly refused. "Yinyang is timid and will definitely not agree to me marrying Xinyu. After the matter is done, then explain it to her." Chapter 612. Only then did Xinghua withdraw. Coincidentally, in the Shen residence's Qiushui Yuan, there were also people talking about Xinyu's marriage. Yuer had not eaten for the entire day and her body cannot take it. The one who spoke was Shenwan. He also doted on Xinyu for so many years, and if it was not for Xinyu always thinking about people that she should not think about, Shenwan would not have punished her like this. She would not eat the things that I sent people to send over. Chen Roqiu sighed. "Thus let third older sister send it over to her. Most likely she has eaten it now." "Third older sister?" Shenwan frowned. "When did Yuer get so close with her?" In Shenwan's eyes, Shen Dongling was after all a Shu daughter, and it was a loss of status for Xinyu to be on good terms with Shen Dongling. Thus he was not very happy when he heard it. Chen Roqiu smiled. "It got better a few days ago. Originally there was eldest sister who talked to Yuer in the residence, but after that eldest sister passed away, there are no other sisters in the residence. Yuer is rather lonely on normal days, and I see that third older sister is an honest one. Yuer like her, then let them play together. It is not worth anything." Shenwan did not speak anymore, and only heard Chen Roqiu speaking again. "It is just that I am worried that if Yuer continues to make a fuss like this, what if she still makes a fuss on the day of marriage? Just lock her up for a few days. You are her mother, and at that time speak some soft words to Yuer. Shenwan said. If it really cannot be done, and if she still makes a fuss on the day of marriage, then think of something. Chen Rochio's heart jumped when she heard it. Shenwan had always been gentle in front of her, and there was rarely a time when he was this tough. Chen Rochio was after all a female, and could hear a trace of impatience in Shenwan's words. She thought of the matter of old Shen Foreign frequently bringing in concubines for Shenwan, and felt somewhat uneasy. She then hugged Shenwan's waist from behind and said, After Yuer gets married, Master and this concubine can relax for a few days. These days it seems that Master is not happy with the official matters, and did not speak to this concubine at all, making this concubine feel uneasy. Even though Chen Rochio was not young, but because she had taken good care of herself, and understood what a man was thinking in his heart, Shenwan usually fell for it when she acted coquettishly. Who knew that today? Shenwan only patted her hand and said with a smile, Let's wait until Yuer's marriage is over. In the end, his tone was a little perfunctory. Chen Rochio's heart gradually sank, and the hand that was hugging Shenwan's waist also slowly tightened. Shen Miao received Pei Lang's letter. Under the light of the lamp, Shen Miao finished reading the letter. In the letter, it said that Fu Xiuyi seemed to have discovered that there were some clues between Shen Miao and Prince Rui, and in order to probe, he deliberately brought up Princess Ming'an's matter to Shen Miao in front of the Crown Prince of Qin, in order to probe the relationship between Shen Miao and Prince Rui. In the future, if Huangfu Hao were to take action against Shen Miao, one would be able to see the clues from Prince Rui's actions. Shen Miao did not expect that Fu Xiuyi would think of this so quickly. After thinking about it, she felt relieved. After being husband and wife with Fu Xiuyi for so many years, it was not the first time that Fu Xiuyi was good at finding evidence from the clues. Moreover, if Fu Xiuyi was really unable to find anything, and was so incompetent, he would not have stood at the end in the fight for the heir apparent. But Shen Miao herself was not that worried, because Huang Fu Hao's character was not impulsive, and moreover it involved the Shen family. So Huang Fu Hao would not easily make a move. At least he would have to investigate it properly. At the end of the letter, it said that if Shen Miao really had a friendship with Prince Rui of the Great Liang, and if she encountered any trouble, she could seek help from Prince Rui of the Great Liang. There were many capable people under Prince Rui of the Great Liang, and there would be less trouble when doing things. Shen Miao felt that the last paragraph was somewhat inexplicable. There was no connection between Pei Lang and Xie Jingxing, and the most important thing was that with Pei Lang's cautious character, it was somewhat strange for him to say that he would seek help from others. But this was indeed Pei Lang's letter without a doubt. Shen Miao thought about it, and could not think of anything else, so she did not take these words seriously. She threw the letter into the fire of the stove, and when the fire licked the letter, it instantly turned into ashes. Chapter 613. There was a large red wooden scroll on the table. That was an invitation sent from the Shen residence. Shen Yu was going to marry the young master of the Minister of Land, Wang Bai. One did not know what the people of the Shen residence were thinking, that they would send this invitation to the Shen mansion. Shen Xian and Luo Shuiyan only took a look and did not bother about it. So naturally Shen Miao would not take the initiative to go over. But Shen Miao did not think that Shen Yu would eventually marry Wang Bai. In the previous lifetime, Shen Yu's obsession with Fu Xiuyi was so deep that she did not hesitate to endure for so many years. In this lifetime, for Shen Yu to marry, how could Shen Yu be willing? As she was thinking, she heard someone knocking on the window. When she looked back, Xie Jingxing had already arrived uninvited. He lazily looked at the red scroll in Shen Miao's hands and raised his eyebrows. You want to go? It seemed that Xie Jingxing also knew about the marriage between Shen Yu and Wang Bai. It should not be fake. When Chen Rochio and Shen Wan do things, they would definitely do a full set. In order to prove that their daughter was also very precious, there would definitely be a big banquet with Ming Qi's guests. In addition, the Minister of Land was acquainted with many officials, and many officials were on good terms with him. Thus it was appropriate to send more red scrolls. Perhaps the entire Ding capital knew about it now. Not going. Shen Miao casually threw the red scroll on the table. Xie Jingxing seemed to have expected that she would say that, and his figure flashed and entered the room. Shen Miao sat down in front of the table, and Xie Jingxing stood at the side with his arms crossed. Shen Yu is locked up in the ancestral hall, and Shen Dongling just went over to take a look. Shen Miao looked at Xie Jingxing with some surprise, and hesitated for a moment before asking, "You even went to the Shen residence?" Xie Jingxing was a dignified Prince Rui of the Great Liang. How could he do all these uninvited thief things? It was fine to frequently stroll around the Shen mansion, but to actually secretly peep at the movements of the people in the Shen residence. Xie Jingxing choked on Shen Miao's words. Of course it was not me who went. Shen Miao understood that most likely it was Xie Jingxing who sent his subordinates, but she felt that it was somewhat strange in her heart. The people in the Shen residence did not have the slightest bit of relationship with Xie Jingxing. So why did Xie Jingxing let people monitor the movements in the Shen residence? Could it be for her? Shen Yu's marriage, you are not happy? Xie Jingxing asked. The people in the Shen residence have nothing to do with me. Could it be that I should be happy for her? Shen Miao said. Moreover, whether the marriage is successful or not is another matter. What is there to be happy about? Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up and sat opposite Shen Miao before looking at her. You seem to understand it very well? You specially came over to tell me that Shen Dongling and Shen Yu are together. Is it not to tell me about this matter? Shen Miao smiled without a care. Shen Dongling and Shen Yu will eventually exchange marriage. Fortunately Shen Yu found Shen Dongling. One think that with Shen Dongling around, there would not be any mistakes in this marriage exchange. In the Shen residence, Shen Miao did not know what role Shen Dongling played, and in the last lifetime, Shen Miao did not pay much attention to this Shu younger sister. Ever since his rebirth he had seen many things clearly. Shen Dongling was actually very similar to a person. Shen Dongling was very similar to Fu Xiuyi. They both had a kind of endurance skill. Shen Dongling had endured for so many years, and now when Shen Dongling was mentioned in the Shen residence, everyone would feel that she was a Shu daughter, who had no special characteristics, and her temperament seemed to be very good. Then it was such a person, who was able to live till now safe and sound under Run Wanyun's checks and balances. From the looks of it, in the entire second household, it seemed that only Shen Dongling and Wan Yinyang were the winners. Shen Miao did not dare to underestimate such a person. Xie Jingxing smiled. How do you know about the exchange of marriage? Because Shen Yu is not willing. Shen Miao said. Shen Yu is not willing to marry Wang Bai, but unfortunately Chen Roqiu and Shen Wangung have already exchanged, and the marriage was already set. For a person like Shen Yu, this is a forced marriage. Shen Yu had always been proud and arrogant, and after so many years, everything went smoothly. How could she accept such an arrangement? It is not entirely a coincidence that Shen Dongling appeared here. Most likely one has the intention to escape, and the other has the intention to replace, so it is a very good deal. Xie Jingxing listened to Shen Miao's words, and there was a lazy smile on his face. He seemed to like listening to Shen Miao's analysis of the opponent, and felt that Shen Miao's serious look was somewhat interesting. He said, forced marriage? Wang Bai is enough to match Shen Yu. Unfortunately he is not Shen Yu's sweetheart. Shen Miao smiled slightly. Shen Yu is such a stubborn person, and would not change her original intention. In order to marry her sweetheart, in order not to be forced to marry, she would always think of ways. Then what about you? Xie Jingxing suddenly asked. Shen Miao frowned. Xie Jingxing casually said, if one day you are also forced to marry, what would you do? Chapter 614. If there is a day when you are also forced to marry, what would you do? Shen Miao was slightly startled. She was forced to marry? In the previous lifetime, she was forced to marry, but it was she who took the initiative to marry Fu Xiuyi. She was the one who was forced to marry. She had never thought of being forced to marry. At this moment when Xie Jingxing asked, Shen Miao thought of something. Following the Shen family's return to the Ding capital, not to mention that Emperor Wen Hui had returned the military power of the Shen family's army to Shen Xian, even the Luo family's army in the faraway Shaochun city was not the same army that was in dire straits. Not only did the first household of the Shen family not decline, as everyone had expected, because they were far away from the Ding capital, but their strength became even stronger. The Shen family was like a big piece of fat meat. In the fight for the heir apparent, whoever was tied to the Shen family would have the winning chip. How to tie them together? In a large aristocratic family, marriage was the right way. Shen Qiu's and Shen Miao's marriage had become a channel for everyone to climb up to the Shen family. The only difference was that Shen Qiu was a male and could wait for some time, but Shen Miao was a female, and if it was delayed for a long time, a female's youth would fade like a flower, and it would be inevitable to be pointed out by others. If there was a day when she also became a chip in the fight for the heir apparent, and was fought over and forced to marry, what would happen? Xie Jingxing stared at her, and his eyes were as sharp as a blade. There will not be such a day. Shen Miao said. If there is, what will you do? Xie Jingxing did not let her go, and persistently asked Shen Miao this question. Shen Miao carefully thought about it and said, then fight. If one is able to fight, one would naturally think of ways to let him know the difficulties and retreat. If one is unable to fight, then there is no harm in marrying over. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows. No harm? One must at least live. Shen Miao lightly said. After marrying over, then think of ways to retaliate. There are many helpless things in the world, and I cannot be like a strong female and die with a piece of white silk. It is better to keep one's life, and there would be a chance to turn things around. The previous life's experience in the palace made Shen Miao understand that death was the most hopeless thing. Once he died, it would mean that everything had been settled, and there would be no more room for change. She often thought that if she did not die like that in the previous life, she would have fought with Mei Furan in the palace for another few decades, and it would be unknown who would be the winner. Perhaps she would still lose, but perhaps she would also win. She would help the entire first household of the Shen family, and help Wan Yu and Fu Ming to get back this debt of life. In any case, life would not pass in vain. Xie Jingxing stared at Shen Miao. She was like a plant full of vitality, a weed that grew in the cold winter. Even in the harshest environment, she would never lose hope. Even if he was in the most disadvantageous position, he could still climb to the position he wanted little by little. Her purpose was clear, but it was also mysterious. She did not look like a 16-year-old girl. Xie Jingxing smiled faintly. You are like the Shen family. Shen Miao did not speak and only heard Xie Jingxing speaking again. I will make a trip out of the city these few days. Be careful yourself. If there are any problems, go to Feng Xian pawnshop to look for Ji Yushu. Gao Yang is my people, so you can trust him. Shen Miao was stunned for a moment. Because of the previous lifetime's experience, Shen Miao naturally knew that Gao Yang was Xie Jingxing's people, and could even be said to be Xie Jingxing's confidant. But even though she knew, Shen Miao had never revealed it. Even when Luo Tan was saved by Gao Yang that day, it was under Xie Jingxing's orders, and Shen Miao only pretended not to know. She knew that some things had a bottom line. Even if Xie Jingxing did not have any enmity towards her, it did not mean that a person was willing to let another person know all the ins and outs. But now Xie Jingxing took the initiative to tell her that Gao Yang was his people. This was really treating Shen Miao as his own people. Chapter 615. Just because they were allies on the surface, they could treat each other with sincerity? What made Xie Jingxing think that she would not betray him? Shen Miao was thinking like this, but it was not noticed by Xie Jingxing as he said, Huang Fu Hao might find trouble with you. Things that you cannot solve yourself, just hand it over to Gao Yang. Shen Miao inexplicably had a strange feeling. This appearance. It was like a husband telling his wife to pay attention to something before leaving. Shen Miao jumped in shock at her own thoughts, and said in a somewhat flustered manner, Understood. Xie Jingxing was somewhat baffled by Shen Miao's sudden fluster, but did not say anything more, and mentioned a few more things to pay attention to before leaving. After Xie Jingxing left, Shen Miao sat under the lamp, and inexplicably felt that her cheeks were somewhat hot. Every time she spoke to Xie Jingxing these few days, she always felt that something was not right. Shen Miao thought that she must let Guyu drink some refreshing heart tea tomorrow, so that her imagination would not run wild all day. When Xie Jingxing left the Shen mansion and returned to the residence of Prince Rui, he coincidentally saw that Gao Yang and Ji Yushu were also there. Ji Yushu was feeding the white tiger. Xie Jingxing glanced at him and said unhappily, "Do not feed anymore. Jiao Jiao likes to eat." Ji Yushu said. The veins on Xie Jingxing's forehead throbbed. "Do not call its name." Ji Yushu immediately felt wronged as he stood up and silently retreated to the side. Gao Yang was however used to it, and Xie Jingxing pampered this white tiger very much. But only Ji Yushu dared to tease the tiger all day long. A beautiful and majestic white tiger was now fed into a meatball. Anyone would feel heartache when they saw it. He walked over to Xie Jingxing's side and asked, "Everything is prepared. Depart tomorrow." Xie Jingxing looked at him. "During this period of time, pay more attention in the Ding capital." Gao Yang looked at him. "Do not worry. I will definitely help you to pay attention to 5th Shin young lady." "Do not pay too much attention," Xie Jingxing said lightly. Gao Yang wanted to vomit blood. Xie Jingxing was just too temperamental. Just take yesterday as an example. Pei Lang wrote a letter to Shen Miao, and the main idea was to warn Shen Miao to be wary of Huangfu Hao and Fu Xiu Yi, and finally to remind Shen Miao to stay away from Xie Jingxing. Xie Jingxing let Gao Yang copy a letter. Gao Yang was a disciple of a master of calligraphy and painting, and it was the first time he did this kind of copying business, and made a counterfeit letter. What was even more amazing was that Xie Jingxing erased the last sentence of the reminder, and made Gao Yang add some groundless words, and only said that if there was any trouble, he could look for Prince Rui for help. Although he already knew that the person he was assisting was a black-hearted master, this time, Gao Yang clearly had a new understanding of Xie Jingxing's shamelessness. "I got it." Gao Yang waved his fan and said, "In other words, if she causes trouble, I'll bring up the rear. And if she kills, I'll hand over the knife, right? It is not that troublesome." Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up. She is currently very busy with the Shen family's marriage, and could not care about killing. Ever since that night, Xie Jingxing did not appear again. Shen Miao knew that it was impossible for Prince Rui of the Great Liang to stay in the Ding capital and do nothing. If one were to say that Huangfu Hao stayed till now, one was to investigate the cause of Princess Ming'an's death, and the other was to form an alliance with Ming Qi. Then Xie Jingxing's stay was meaningless. He must have other plans and schemes. Time passed by very quickly, and very soon it was the day of Shen Yu's marriage. The 8th of the 12th lunar month was an auspicious day, with favorable timing, geographical and social conditions. The eldest gentleman of the Minister of Land was going to marry, and he was marrying the second young lady of the Shen residence, Shen Yu. Even though it was because of the separation of the first household of the Shen family 2 years ago, and the matter of Shen Yuan and Shen Gui, the Shen family was not as good as before. But the Minister of Land had a wide range of friends in the court, and in addition Shen Yu's reputation as a talented female had spread throughout the Ding capital. So this marriage was considered lively. Shen Yu was after all a proper daughter. Shen Wan rather cherished his reputation, and Wang Bai was knowledgeable, so outsiders would say that they were a perfect match. Chapter 616. And in the Shen residence, Shen Yu had already dressed up, but had chased everyone out, leaving only Shen Dongling alone. If one were to look carefully, one would see that Shen Dongling had also dressed up meticulously. Shen Dongling was originally a beauty, but it was covered up because she did not go out often. Today she was dressed up as a newly married bride, and looked even more beautiful. It was just that Shen Yu did not have the mood to appreciate or be jealous. When she saw Shen Dongling coming over, she said, "Quickly, Quickly change clothes with me. The previous matron of honor, and Shinrochio had already left. These days, on the surface Shinyu seemed to have gradually accepted this marriage under Chunrochio's suppression, and did not reject it. But in fact she was secretly plotting with Shen Dongling on how to exchange the marriage. The more she interacted with Shen Dongling, the more Shinyu felt that Shen Dongling was easy to deceive, and was even more stupid than the previous Shen Miao. Shen Dongling was flustered as she changed her clothes and said softly, "Second older sister, I am very afraid." "Do not be afraid." Shinyu was afraid that Shen Dongling would go back on her words at this critical juncture, and comforted her. "Do not worry. Tomorrow I will explain to father and mother that this matter was started by me alone, and you will not be implicated. After today, you will be the rightful young foreign of the Minister of Land's family, and no one would dare to look down on you." Shinyu used the matter of identity to tempt Shen Dongling, and as expected Shen Dongling's fear faded a little, and her face blushed. She could not help but secretly despise her in her heart. If it was not as a last resort, she would not be willing to let Shen Dongling live so well for no reason. It was just that now as a last resort, she treated it as giving Shen Dongling the title of a foreign out of charity. Just as she finished dressing, she heard the sound of people walking outside. Shinyu quickly hid behind the screen in the room, and Shen Dongling also quickly covered her head with the veil. Shinyu's maid walked in from outside, and because there were no other sisters in the Shen family, the maid helped her out. Shen Dongling used the excuse of helping in the kitchen, and had long disappeared, and everyone did not take it to heart. Chunrochio originally wanted to speak a few words with Shinyu before boarding the sedan, but saw that Shinyu was being supported by the maid, and walked towards the sedan, without even turning her head towards Chunrochio. When Chunrochio saw it, her heart was somewhat sad as she thought that Shinyu was still blaming her because of the marriage, but there was nothing she could do. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she was afraid that there would be more twists and turns, so she followed the instructions of the matron of honor. The palanquin rattled as it walked further away, about to be carried to the minister-councilor's residence. Chunrochio also needed to pack up and follow to the residence of the Minister of Land, when coincidentally Chang Zaiqing walked over. Perhaps it was because of the wedding atmosphere today. Song Zaiqing was also wearing a light peach-colored cotton-embroidered dress. Because she always wore refreshing colors such as cyan and black, it was rare for her to wear such a gorgeous outfit, which made her look quite charming. Song Zaiqing smiled. "If second young lady marries out, there will be a good future." When Chunrochio saw Song Zaiqing, she then remembered that she had not seen Song Zaiqing for a long time. Ever since the last time she spoke to Song Zaiqing, one did not know what Song Zaiqing was busy with, and she was also concerned about Shinyu's marriage, thus, she did not go over to speak to Song Zaiqing. At this moment, seeing Song Zaiqing's flowing brows, it was much more colorful than before. Her heart moved and she smiled. Does younger sister Qing still go to eldest Saw's residence these days? Song Zaiqing smiled and shook her head. Not often. Eldest foreign and the general are very busy, and do not have much time to chat. Chunrochio was certain that Song Zaiqing was lying, and thought that she was shy, so she patted her hands. Younger sister Qing is so likable. One would definitely find time to talk to you. Chunrochio thought that after Shinyu's matter was over, she would ask Song Zaiqing about the progress at this end. Shinyu had no choice but to marry into the Wang family. Even though the Wang family was not bad, but thinking that her daughter could not marry her sweetheart, and even had a rift with herself, Chunrochio's heart was blocked. On the contrary, Shen Miao was now the most popular person in the Ding capital. Initially, a few days ago, one thought that Shen Miao would have a miserable ending after being kidnapped, but one did not think that Shen Miao would come back in one piece, and because of Princess Rong Xian's intervention, even the rumors were destroyed. Looking at the entire Ding capital, if Shen Miao wanted to marry a prince, it was possible. Once she thought that the thing that her daughter yearned for was easily obtained by Shen Miao, Chunrochio was very unreconciled. Thinking that Luo Shuiyan, that kind of vulgar female, could actually have a child, Chunrochio could not wait to destroy her. Chapter 617. She took a look at Chang Ziqing in front of her. Chang Ziqing had already gained Luo Shuiyan's favor, and now it seemed that she was getting along well with Shen Exan. As long as after a few days, Chang Ziqing would think of a way to enter the Shen mansion, then Luo Shuiyan's and Shen Miao's days in the future would not be easy. Most likely one would not be able to see others doing well, especially when one was not doing well. This was what Chunrochio was thinking now. She could not wait to see Luo Shuiyan crying bitterly, and in a moment she looked at Chang Ziqing more cordially. She pulled Chang Ziqing's hands and smiled. Let's go. Younger sister will also follow me to the residence of the Minister of Land. I often told Yuer to learn from your bearing, but one did not think that she would marry before she even started learning. It is a pity. Chang Ziqing followed up with a smile. It is second young lady's good luck to have a husband to dote on after marriage. You really know how to speak. Chunrochio smiled. One's heart is already warmed up. She looked at the 5-colored sachet at Chang Ziqing's waist and said, This sachet is very unique. Chang Ziqing took down the sachet and handed it to Chunrochio. If foreign likes it, then gift it to foreign. Chunrochio had always liked some exquisite things, and seeing that the embroidery of the sachet was indeed exquisite, she could not bear to part with it and did not decline. She placed it under her nose and sniffed it gently before saying in surprise, This smell is very good. One do not know what fragrance is it. Chang Ziqing smiled gently. I do not know about fragrance but do know about tea. Thus one casually mixed some tea leaves and placed it inside, thinking that it can lift one's spirit when one is tired. One have let foreign laugh at it. Younger sister is clever and dexterous. How would I dare to laugh at it? Chunrochio accepted the sachet and smiled, like it very much. Both of them chatted and laughed as they walked out. Shen Yu's and Wang Bai's marriage was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise in the previously quiet Ding capital. One did not know what the Wang family was thinking, but in order to highlight the importance of this marriage, they actually carried the bridal sedan and strolled around the entire Ding capital. Coincidentally, they strolled to the bottom of the Feng Xian pawn shop. Upstairs, Ji Yushu was eating pastries and said as he ate, The Wang family's marriage is quite lively. Opposite him, Gao Yang gently waved his fan and glanced downstairs. The sounds of gongs and drums shook the sky. He closed the window in disdain and said, The bride has already been changed. What's the point of being so lively? It's just a farce. I'm quite interested in this play. It is best to cause trouble for 3 days and 3 nights. Ji Yushu had the temperament of wishing for the world to be in chaos, and did not mind the matter getting bigger and bigger. He said, Speaking of which, is there no movement from young lady Shen? Before Xie Jingxing left, he wanted Gao Yang to look after Shen Miao, and if Shen Miao wanted to do anything, he must think of ways to help. After knowing Shen Miao for 2 years, Ji Yushu could be considered to have more or less grasped Shen Miao's temper. She looked gentle and amiable, but in fact it was not to be trifled with. The Shen family was originally heartless towards the first household, and seeing such a farce, if Shen Miao did not throw stones at them when they were down, it would not be justifiable. Gao Yang sneered. Not now, but there will definitely be in the future. Ji Yushu wiped his mouth. Actually, you do not need to have such a big prejudice against young lady Shen. Young lady Shen's character is still very good, and is very generous. She also looks very good, so why do you always be so calculative with her? Moreover, the Shen family did not give you any trouble. No trouble. Upon mentioning this, Gao Yang felt his chest was stuffy. Shen Miao was unworthy to say that Xie Jingxing's temperamental appearance made the people around him to be unlucky. Even Shen Miao's Biao older sister was not easy to deal with. Gao Yang had never seen such a patient who could toss and turn. She was unmoved by force or persuasion, and always felt that he was on the same level as the physician in the medical hall. Gao Yang was a young and promising official in the Great Liang, and was an imperial physician in Mingqi. But when he came to Luo Tan, he became a barefooted physician. Thus Gao Yang was not very happy. Chapter 618. Ji Yushu did not notice Gao Yang's expression and tidied up his clothes before saying leisurely, "No matter what, just wait for a good show tomorrow. The bigger the commotion the better, so that when third older brother returns, he would not feel bored." For the Wang family's marriage, no one from the first household of the Shen family was present. Actually, Shen Wan had sent an invitation to the Shen mansion, so no matter what, one had to take into account their face. But Shen Xian was not a hypocritical person, and the things that the Shen family did made Luo Shuiyin extremely disgusted. Thus she did not receive the invitation, much less send a gift. Some of the people who were watching the development of the situation clearly understood the attitude of the first household of the Shen family. It seemed that they had really decided to cut off all relations with the Shen family, and there would not be any leeway. No matter what, the marriage was done. Early in the morning the next day, Wan Yinyang woke up. Yesterday when Xinyu got married, Shen Dongling helped out, and one did not see her figure for the entire day. Afterwards, when they returned to the residence, the maid said that Shen Dongling was too tired and fell asleep. Thus Wan Yinyang did not disturb her. Today she specially made a sweet jadeite soup, so that Shen Dongling could nourish her body. Thus she stood outside Shen Dongling's boudoir and knocked on the door. No one answered in the room, so Wan Yinyang said, "Dongling, Yinyang has entered." Finishing speaking, she pushed the door open. One saw a person lying on Shen Dongling's bed and covered with a quilt. When she heard the commotion, she suddenly sat up. Wan Yinyang was first startled, before a look of disbelief appeared on her face. She cried out involuntarily, "Second young lady, why are you here?" The person lying on Shen Dongling's bed was not someone else, but Xinyu. And Xinyu had obviously married into the residence of the Minister of Land yesterday, which meant that Xinyu should not be in the Shen residence, but in the residence of the Minister of Land. Why would she appear on Shen Dongling's bed without rhyme or reason? Wan Yinyang looked around again, and did not see Shen Dongling's figure. Even though she was not considered smart normally, at this moment she also vaguely understood something. She asked in a trembling voice, "Second young lady, Dongling. Dongling? Where did Dongling go?" Xinyu quickly lowered her head and rolled her eyes. When she raised her head again, her face was already filled with tears. The moment Wan Yinyang saw Xinyu's tears, she felt her vision turning black and only heard Xinyu sobbing. "Do not know. I also do not know. Third younger sister came over to toast with me and then, I don't know anything else." The Shen residence exploded into an uproar. In Rongjing Tang, everyone stood together. Old Shen Foreign was so angry that her mouth was crooked as she looked at Wan Yinyang and said angrily, "A good daughter that you have taught." Shen Gui stood at one side, and originally wanted to say something. Now Wan Yinyang was the only woman that gave birth to a child for him, and Wan Yinyang was usually considered gentle and well-behaved, so even though Shen Gui was a playboy, he still had some affection for Wan Yinyang. But when he saw the angry expressions of his third brother and third sister-in-law, he swallowed his request. Shen Dongling actually schemed against Xinyu, and helped Xinyu to marry. Now Xinyu was left in the Shen residence, and Shen Dongling was married to the Minister of Land's family. If it was anyone else, they would not be happy. Shen Gui himself also did not think that the usually well-behaved and timid Shen Dongling would have such big guts to exchange the marriage. Shen Gui would never offend his third brother for a daughter, even if that was his only bloodline. Wan Yinyang cried as she kowtowed to old Shen Foreign and said as she kowtowed, "Old Foreign is wise. Third young lady is usually timid, so how would she have such big guts to exchange the marriage? Old Foreign, could it be that there is some misunderstanding? Even if third young lady had 10,000 guts, third young lady would definitely not dare to do such a treacherous thing. Do your words mean that you ever slandered third lady?" Chen Rochio's face was livid. These words can really hit the heart. Wan Yinyang. Chapter 619. No matter how old Shen Foreign usually did not like Chen Rochio, she did not even have much feelings for Xinyu. But Xinyu was after all the D granddaughter of the Shen family, and for a Shu granddaughter to snatch her marriage, It would not be good to hear. She immediately followed Chen Rochio's words. What kind of mother will have what kind of daughter? What a shameful thing. Wan Yinyang cried as she looked at Shenyu. Second young lady. Wasn't your relationship with third young lady very good previously? You also speak up for third young lady. Third young lady is not that kind of person, right? Wan Yinyang did not believe that Shen Dongling would do such a thing. Since young, Shen Dongling had her own ideas, and many times when Wan Yinyang did not understand, Shen Dongling would even point it out to Wan Yinyang. Wan Yinyang had always thought that the daughter that crawled out of her womb would not be worse than any of the D daughters in the Shen residence, unless there was a problem with her identity. Shen Dongling looked timid on the outside, but she always did things with great planning. Even though she previously heard from Shen Dongling that Shen Yu's marriage was an opportunity, but Wan Yinyang had never thought that it would be such a situation. Wan Yinyang believed that as long as Shen Dongling was not stupid, she would not use such a crude method to exchange marriage. After all, in this way, Shen Dongling would not have a foothold in the Wang family or the Shen family. Originally, she was hoping that the cultured Shen Yu would say 1 or 2 words for Shen Dongling, but she did not expect that Shen Yu's face would change faster than flipping a book. Upon hearing Wan Yinyang speak, Shen Yu cried, Wan Yinyang, I really do not know what is going on. Third Mimi said I was leaving the mansion. Since we are sisters, she toasted me a cup of wine before leaving, and I drank it. When I woke up, it was already the next morning. I also believe that third younger sister didn't do it on purpose, but I really don't know how she became like this. On the surface, Shen Yu's words were saying that she believed Shen Dongling, but her words were saying that she was schemed by Shen Dongling, which was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. As expected, when Chen Rochio and Shen Wan heard this, their expressions became even more gloomy. Shen Gui also frowned, and when Wan Yinyang saw everyone standing on Shen Yu's side, a trace of despair flashed in her heart. The urgent matter is to first think of how to solve it. Chang Ziqing said softly. She was not a person of the Shen Fu, and it was not good to comment on the previous words. At this moment, it reminded everyone that the bride had changed, so how could they explain to the Wang family? Send Shen Dongling back? Or should he simply send Shen Dongling to live on the farm for the rest of her life? In any case, Shen Dongling was just a concubine's daughter, so it would be easy to get rid of her. The most important thing was to not make the Wang clan unhappy. Old Shen Foreign made a prompt decision. First go and discuss this matter with the Wang family, and let people send third girl back. Needless to say, lock Wan Yinyang in the woodshed. The things that she gave birth to do wrong. As the mother, she deserves to be taught a lesson. When Shen Yu heard it, she became anxious instead. She did not expect that Shen Dongling would be sent back. If Shen Dongling was sent back, then wouldn't she be sent to the Wang family? So all these methods were all for naught? How could he do that? Chen Rochio and Shen Wan were rather satisfied with old Shen Foreign's words. Chen Rochio glanced at Wan Yinyang, and her heart was filled with resentment. She only thought that in the future, she would definitely torture Wan Yinyang. Whether it was to be sold or to be a slave, it was after all a troublesome thing. When Wan Yinyang heard it, her eyes turned black. One had to know that if Shen Dongling was sent back, she was already married once and Shen Dongling was a Shu daughter. The Shen family would definitely choose to protect Shen Yu and sacrifice Shen Dongling. In this way, the rest of Shen Dongling's life would be ruined. Just as she was thinking, a servant came in to report that the Minister of Land, Wang's family, had arrived. Chapter 620. Upon hearing that people from the Minister of Land, Wan Yinyang trembled as she looked outside. Although she believed that Shen Dongling wasn't the culprit, all the dirty water was splashed on Shen Dongling. If the Wang family wanted to pursue this matter, they would definitely target Shen Dongling. Wan Yinyang only had Shen Dongling as her only daughter, so how could her heart not ache? Unfortunately, her words carried little weight, and even if she wanted to save Shen Dongling from the fire and water, there was nothing she could do. Everyone looked at each other before old Shen Foreign said, "Invite the Wang family in." The one who came from the Wang clan was a dark-skinned and sturdy woman, as well as a few servant girls of high status. The dark-skinned woman's face was dark to begin with. As soon as she entered the room, her face was gloomy. Her shoulders and waist were round, making her look even more frightening. It was as if they were here to denounce him. Seeing Wan Yinyang crying and falling to the ground in the Shun residence without any change in expression, everyone realized something. Old Shun Foreign frowned and was about to speak when she heard that black strong female said, "May one ask where is the residence's second household Wan Yinyang?" Wan Yinyang's heart jumped, and the more she felt despair. Chen Roqiu on the contrary was relieved. If the other party wanted to take it out on Wan Yinyang, the Shun family would definitely not protect Wan Yinyang. Chen Roqiu even thought in her heart that it would be good to torture Wan Yinyang, this mother and daughter pair, to death. It was really unbearable for them to actually have crooked ideas about Shinyu. Thinking of this, Chen Roqiu smiled and went forward. It is not to Momo to say that we were also horrified by the matter in the residence yesterday. He had never expected that the third young lady would do such a disgraceful thing. It's just that my family's heir has been wronged in vain, and the eldest young master of the residence must be very alarmed and angry. This matter is all because of our Shin residence's improper upbringing, causing such a big scandal. One hopes that after Master and Furin of the in-laws get angry, they will calmly think about it. I've already scolded you for trusting people too easily. This is really... The black strong female ignored Chen Roqiu's words and asked again with a black face, "May one ask where is the residence's Wan Yinyang?" Everyone was surprised for a moment, as Chen Roqiu did not expect that this old maid would dare to give her face. But in front of everyone, she still had to maintain her usual gentle and amiable appearance. In addition, this matter was the Wang family's victim, so it was not good for her to say anything. Old Shin Foreign said in a deep voice, "The one kneeling on the floor is Madame Wan." Wan Yinyang's eyes revealed a mournful expression, but that black strong female unexpectedly reached out to help Wan Yinyang up. Not only was there no scolding or rudeness, but her attitude was somewhat respectful as she said, "Eldest young mistress Mrs. Mother, and eldest young master, let this servant bring Wan Yinyang to stay in the residence of the Minister of Land. This servant has specially come to make this trip. I hope old madam will allow it." Once these words came out, everyone in Rongjingtang was stunned. What was called eldest young mistress missed her mother, and eldest young master, let people bring Wan Yinyang to live in the residence of the Minister of Land. Who was eldest young mistress? Who was the mother of eldest young mistress? Shindongling? The Wan family? When Chen Roqiu saw the black strong female helping Wan Yinyang up, she already faintly felt that something was not right, and when she heard those words, she almost fainted. Shen Wan's face sunk as he said, "What is the meaning of in-law?" That black strong female was someone who liked to be clever, and looked at Shen Wan's expression before saying with a puzzled look, "This servant does not really understand third Shen master's words. Can it be said more clearly?" Shen Wan and Chen Roqiu were somewhat depressed at the same time. This old maid was obviously pretending to be confused and obviously knew something, but still pretended to be stupid. Could it be that they had to say the words of exchanging the marriage? Shen Wan and Chen Roqiu were unable to say it out, but old Shin Furen did not have such concerns. She was originally not a daughter of a noble family, thus she did not know shame. She stiffened her neck and said, "In-law's words are not right. Yesterday during the marriage, our residence's third and second young lady exchanged the marriage, and even the bride was changed. Now is the time to discuss how to solve this matter, and you, a servant, dare to act confused?" Chapter 621. When Chen Roqiu and Shen Wan wanted to stop old Shin Foreign, it was already too late. Old Shin Foreign always had this kind of ability. She always felt that she was a cut above others, and everyone would fawn over her. For Shinyu's marriage, old Shin Foreign actually did not look at the Minister of Land's family, and wanted Shinyu to marry higher, but in fact, the Wang family's status and connections in the court was far higher than what Shen Wan had. On the surface, this black and strong woman was an old woman, but without the Wang family's permission, how would she dare to speak to the Shin family like that? Old Shen Foreign scolding this old woman was clearly scolding the Wang family. The Wang family would only feel that the Shen family did not have the eyes and was bullying others. When the black and strong woman heard it, she indeed laughed, but that laughter was exceptionally ear-piercing to Chen Roqiu and Shen Wan's ears. The black and strong woman was puzzled. What is old Foreign's meaning? Where did the matter of exchanging the marriage come from? Yesterday there was a eldest young master marrying a wife, and the new bride was sensible and considerate, and was liked by the entire Wang residence. Why did old Foreign say such a joke? Liked by everyone in the Wang mansion? Wan Yinyang was originally somewhat confused, but when she heard those words, her heart quivered, and suddenly felt a sense of joy from being rescued from a hopeless situation. Her Dongling was extremely intelligent, and had a good temperament and appearance. If she could firmly tie Wang Bai just based on yesterday night, with Wang Bai's protection, so what if Xin Yu entered the door in the future? Being a concubine was better than being an ant in the temple. Moreover, Wan Yinyang believed that Shen Dongling would one day become outstanding. When Chen Roqiu heard it, she almost went crazy from anger, and did not care about old Shen Foreign's rude words, and said to the black and strong woman, "What is the Wang family's intention? If one does not like, or is angry, then just say it directly. There is no need to be so mystifying. Could it be that one really want to treat third young lady as you are to live?" Shen Wan slightly frowned, and looked at Chen Roqiu with some surprise. Chen Roqiu's words were no better than old Shen Foreign's. Unless it was a last resort, Shen Wan did not want to offend the Wang family, especially since the Shen family was at fault first. That black and strong woman turned towards Chen Roqiu and said, "Third Shen Foreign's words are strange. Yesterday, eldest young master married the second young miss of the Fu. The second young miss is also very good. There has never been a third young Mississippi." Chen Roqiu was stunned on the spot. The meaning of these words was that it was true that the Wang residents recognized Shen Yu's identity, but she was Shen Dongling's person? Let Shen Dongling live with Shen Yu's identity? What kind of words were those? Chen Roqiu was going crazy. It was Shen Yu who did not dare to speak at the side, who finally heaved a sigh of relief when she heard it. All she wanted was for Shen Dongling to marry into the Wang family on her behalf, and then turn herself into the one who was framed, and get rid of it cleanly. At the end, the one who was blamed was Shen Dongling, and the one who suffered was Wang Bai. Shen Yu was a free person, and perhaps she could gain sympathy. Even though Shen Yu was not satisfied that the Wang family did not make a ruckus, and did not let Shen Dongling suffer a loss, but to be able to let her completely get rid of this marriage, Shen Yu was already satisfied. Shen Wan's brows furrowed tightly. The attitude of this burly woman clearly represented the attitude of the Wang clan. The Wang family now wanted Shen Dongling to live with Shen Yu's identity. Then what about Shen Yu? The Wang family were usually not such harsh people. Could it be that Shen Dongling said something to Wang Bai? Chen Roqiu sneered, "All right. Just like what you all said. The one who is married into the residence is second young lady, and I am second young lady's mother. Everything is fine, so why would one send Wan Yinyang over? Don't you find it ridiculous to send a Yinyang over?" Wan Yinyang looked at the woman with some fear. That woman, however, smiled. "It is like this. Eldest young mistress said that even though there is no blood relation with Wan Yinyang, but she was very close to Wan Yinyang. Now that she had just married into another family, she was not used to it, so she brought Wan Yinyang over for a short stay." Eldest young master felt sorry for eldest young mistress and agreed. Chapter 622. Such a reason to lie without batting an eyelid. But it was like a ruthless slap on the third household's face. Especially Shen Yu. She originally thought that after Shen Dongling married over, the Wang family would make things difficult and despise Shen Dongling in every possible way because of her marrying a Shu daughter, but did not think that Shen Dongling would actually mix around in the Wang family. To her, this was like a great irony. Didn't you not want to marry into the Wang residence? Apologies. The one that our eldest young master likes is not you. Eldest young mistress is loved and respected by others. And even without you in the Wang residence, she can still live well. Shin Yu gritted her teeth and was somewhat unreconciled. Originally she tried all ways and means to let Shin Dongling replace herself, but when she saw that Shin Dongling might obtain the favor of the Wang family, Shin Yu was not happy. Humans most likely had a kind of strange heart. Even if one did not want it, one would not want others to easily obtain it. Everyone in the Shin family was stunned. Today they expected that the Wang family would fly into a rage when they found out about the matter and fall out with the Shin residents, but they did not expect that the Wang family would have such an attitude. Not only did the Wang family not hate Shin Dongling, but they were very dissatisfied with the third household of the Shin family. There was ridicule in the open and in the dark. Chen Roqiu still wanted to speak, but was stopped by Xinhuan. Xinhuan said, "Since that is the case, I will go over tomorrow to explain." Before this, one hoped that the in-laws would be more rational and not be blinded by anger. The dark-skinned strong woman smiled and said, "What is third master saying? Right now, the residence is lively and sweet. Master and Furin are very happy, saying that the daughter raised in your residence is excellent. How could they be angry? I'm afraid third master is worrying too much." This dark strong female was also a talent, and one sentence made Xinhuan choke. She patted Wan Yinyang's hands and smiled at old Shinforan. This servant will now bring Wan Yinyang back, and hope that old Foreign will approve. Eldest young master is in the residence waiting for this servant to return and report. She actually brought out Wang Bai's name. Old Shin Foreign frowned as she looked at Shin Wan and Shin Gue. She also faintly felt that today's matter was somewhat strange. After all, Shin Wan was Shin Yu's father, and Wan Yinyang was a person from the second household. Thus she could only make a decision to her two sons. Shin Gue was unable to come up with any ideas, and Shin Wan's face was gloomy, but he said, "Since that is the case, Wan Yinyang will follow along. It is rare that a child has such a heart." These words were neither yin nor yang, but it made one's back turn cold. Wan Yinyang was half pleasantly surprised and half frightened. She was pleasantly surprised because the Wang family did not seem to intend to pursue Shin Dongling's wrongdoings. And she was frightened because she did not know if the Wang family deliberately did this, or if it was to express their dissatisfaction and deliberately anger the third household. At the end, Shin Dongling would still be the one to be sacrificed. The dark strong woman did what she said, and brought Wan Yinyang away in front of everyone in the Shin family. Rong Jingtang was silent, and after a moment old Shin Foreign said coldly, "What exactly is going on?" The strange attitude of the Wang clan was even more unsettling than if they had torn off all pretense of cordiality. Chang Ziqing moved her lips and seemed to want to say something, but after seeing Shin Wan's expression, she swallowed the words that were at the tip of her tongue. Shin Gui was somewhat embarrassed. Originally it was Shin Dongling who snatched Shin Yu's marriage, and he wanted to hand Shin Dongling mother and daughter over to the Wang family, so that the Wang family and the third household could appease their anger. But one did not think that there would be such a situation. Shin Gui coughed twice. "Later I will write a letter to Dongling and see what kind of matter she is doing." Shen Wan smiled and looked at Shin Yu before softly saying, "Yuer, follow me back to the room first." He turned his head to look at old Shin Foreign and said, "Mother, the Wang family's matter cannot be rashly done. After this son personally visit tomorrow to apologize, one think that the matter can be easily solved. It is all the son's fault to disturb this elderly." Chapter 623. How can you be blamed for this? Old Shin Foreign sighed, and her tone suddenly became unhappy. It is all because of this third girl. Following that slut Wan Shi, she learned these things that cannot be shown in public. She then complained to Chen Roqiu. "If you were more serious in handling matters, then third girl would not have taken advantage of the loophole." Chen Roqiu had a stomach full of anger because of Shin Yu's matter and felt wronged and heartache. Now that she was being scolded by old Shin Foreign, she retorted, "How can mother blame me? I also did not think that third lady would have such thoughts. Mother is really too muddle-headed to blame this matter on me." "You say that I am muddle-headed?" Old Shin Foreign was furious. Chen Roqiu still wanted to speak, but was shouted at by Xinhuan. Enough! She was slightly surprised for a moment. For so many years, Xinhuan had never said such harsh words to her, and this was the first time he shouted at her. Xinhuan said, "You follow me back to the room." Xinyu timidly complied. Chang Zhaoqing, who was at the side, saw this scene, and an imperceptible smile floated on her lips. Xinyu followed Xinhuan back to the room, and Xinhuan's back faced her without speaking. Xinyu thought that Xinhuan was unhappy about the Wang family's matter. Thinking of the Wang family's attitude today, and thinking that Xin Dongling might have gained the favor of the Wang family, and was using her identity to benefit from both sides, Xinyu was extremely dissatisfied. She said, "Father, that Wang family is clearly using their power to bully others, and did not put you in their eyes. What kind of words were said today? In the future, if third younger sister were to use my identity to live, then what should I do? Third younger sister snatched my marriage, and now she still wants to snatch my identity. Father, you cannot ignore me." Xinyu's words could be said as a matter of course. Perhaps it was because she had told so many lies that she believed it. Xinyu almost believed that this matter was started by Xin Dongling, and it was Xin Dongling who quietly harmed her. "She snatched your marriage?" Without turning back, Xinhuan slowly asked. Xinyu did not hear that Xinhuan's tone was wrong and nodded. "Exactly." A paw slap landed on Xinyu's face. When Chen Roqiu entered the room and saw this scene, she exclaimed "You" before going forward to hug Xinyu and roared at Xinhuan. "What are you doing?" "What did I do?" Xinhuan didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. "Why don't you ask your good daughter what she did?" As Xinyu covered her face, her body could not help but tremble. Although the handprint on her face was painful, it was nothing compared to the fear in her heart. You dare to say that you didn't know anything about this? Was it really Xin Dongling who harmed you and stole your marriage? Do you really think your cunning tricks can fool everyone? You let Xin Dongling marry on your behalf, and you only want to marry Prince Ding. Have you ever thought of offending the Wang family? So what if I, your father, am offended? Without this marriage, how will you get married in the future? I, Xinhuan, have such an intelligent and good daughter like you. It is really a blessing that I have cultivated in my previous life. Xinhuan was a civil official, and his looks were not bad. Normally he would have a cultured and refined appearance, and had always doted on Xinyu. This was the first time he showed such a ferocious expression to Xinyu. Chen Roqiu trembled as she looked at Xinyu in her embrace and asked, Is what your father said true? I just want freedom. Xinyu whispered in fear and suddenly thought of something before raising her head. But Xin Dongling also tempted me. Now the Wang family's attitude towards us is obviously instigated by Xin Dongling. It is all because of Xin Dongling, that slut. Shut up. The more Xinhuan heard, the angrier he got. You are stupid and still blame others. All the books that you have read have gone into a dog's stomach. Xinyu had never met such a ferocious Xinhuan, and her eyes immediately turned red. Ever since Chen Roqiu heard that Xinyu admitted that it was she who wanted to exchange marriage, she closed her eyes in despair. She did not expect that Xinyu would be so daring to do such a thing. But Xinyu was after all a daughter that crawled out from her womb, and had been carefully taught for so many years. Chen Roqiu only had this one daughter, so when she heard Xinhuan blaming her, she could not help but say, even though Yue is wrong, she is also not sensible. I think that Yue is right. Xin Dongling was clearly deliberately seducing Yue, and one fear that this matter was all planned by Xin Dongling. Chapter 624. Xinhuan pressed his forehead, and his gaze towards Chen Roqiu was filled with disappointment. He said, When did you become unable to distinguish right from wrong? Chen Roqiu was surprised for a moment. She only heard Xinhuan continuing, Never mind. Tomorrow I will personally visit the Wang family to apologize. But I do not know if this matter will succeed. After all, it is our Xin family's fault first, and if it does not succeed, then it is your own fault. Finishing speaking, he glanced at Xinyu before turning, and leaving with a brush of his sleeves. Chen Roqiu was alarmed by Xinhuan's disappointed eyes when he left. She still wanted to say something, but Shen Wan had already left the room. Looking at the sobbing Shen Yu, she could only turn her head to comfort her daughter. When Shen Wan left the room, the servant beside saw his exhausted appearance and asked, "Does this lord want to go out of the residence to relax?" "No need." Shen Wan waved his hands and after thinking for a while said, "Go to the western courtyard." The western courtyard was currently the courtyard where Chang Ziqing stayed. The manservant did not speak, and silently brought Shen Wan to the west courtyard. These two people did not see that there was a person looking at their back from afar. This person was Zhang Mama, who was by old Shin Foran's side in Rongjing Tang. Zhang Mama muttered to herself in doubt. Why would third master go to the western courtyard? The farce that happened in the early morning in the Shin residence quickly spread to Shin Miao's ears. At the beginning when the Shin residence was separated, Shen Miao also picked some maids from the second and third household, and even from Rongjing Tang. Chen Roqiu's ability to manage the household was not as good as Ren Wanyun's. At the beginning when Ren Wanyun was managing official matters, every courtyard, especially Kai Yin Yuan, was like an iron bucket, and it was difficult to insert spies. When Chen Roqiu managed the Shin residence, it was like a plate of loose sand. In addition with the sudden decrease in income and expenditure of the Shin residence, the servants did not live as well as in the past. As long as Shin Miao took out some money, it was a very common thing to bribe the servants. Moreover, what she wanted to ask was not any confidential matters, but only the big and small matters that happened in the Shin residence. As long as one inquired a little, one would be able to find out. After the second household of the Shin family declined, it was the third household that supported the Shin family. Chen Roqiu usually had the bearing of a matriarch of the household, and Shin Yu was even more outstanding, because there were no other sisters competing with her. He didn't know if it was because he had lived a comfortable life for too long that his brain wasn't enough. For example, Shin Yu's move this time was really terrible. After this matter, Shen Wan really did as he said. The next day, he went to the Wang family to apologize. She didn't know what kind of excuse he had prepared, but he probably wanted to tactfully push all the blame onto Shin Dongling, who knew that this time, the Wang family would give Shen Wan a tight slap. The Wang family did not accept Shen Wan's apology, as the Wang family did not even acknowledge Shin Yu. They had to say that Shin Dongling was the daughter of the third household, and as for Shin Yu apologies, they did not know her at all. Shen Wan was extremely embarrassed. He could tell that the other party was deliberately finding fault with him. He understood even more that the Wang family already knew that the exchange of marriage was proposed by Shin Yu, so they deliberately made things difficult for him. Shen Wan thought that with his relationship with the Wang family, he would be able to put on airs for a while, and the Wang family would eventually exchange Shin Yu and Shin Dongling back, but this time Shen Wan guessed wrongly. Thus at the end there were two solutions. One was that Shin Dongling would marry over with Shen Yu's identity, and the real Shen Yu would no longer be seen in front of the world. This naturally made Shen Wan unable to accept it. Then there was the second solution. Shin Yu would also marry into the Wang family with the name of a Pinchi. Because everyone had participated in Shin Yu and Wang Bai's marriage, this time the real Shin Yu's marriage need not be big and others would think that it was a Shu daughter marrying. Thus it was so low-key. Chapter 625. This method almost made Shen Wan leave in a huff. It was not unheard of for a D daughter and a Shu daughter to serve the same husband, but in general, it was the D daughter who was the wife and the Shu daughter who was the concubine. What the Wang family proposed was an equal wife. Moreover, in order to deceive others, Shin Yu wanted to hold the marriage with the identity of a Shu daughter, and Shin Dongling, who was a Shu daughter, had snatched away the honor that Shin Yu should have. This was a humiliation. Shen Wan flatly refused, but the Wang clan's attitude was also very firm. After all, it was not the Wang family's fault for mistaking the bride. Now Shin Dongling and Wang Bai were getting along well, thus they did not care about Shin Yu. But the Wang family could drag it on, but Shin Yu could not. If this goes on, the one who would suffer would only be Shin Yu. Thus Shen Wan was somewhat hesitant and quarreled with Chen Roqiu several times over this matter. As Bai Lu was talking to Shen Miao about the things that came back from the Shen residence, she was also looking at Shen Miao's overjoyed look. Shen Miao had always been calm, and it was rare for her to be this happy, as if she was really happy. The young lady is amused, Bai Lu said. This time second young lady has also lifted a rock to smash her own feet, causing so much trouble for no reason, giving third master a headache all day long. If you ask me, it's still third miss who got lucky, Shuang Jiang said. Third young lady not only fished up an official's foreign, but also received the concern of the Wang family from top to bottom, and even brought Wan Yinyang over. It is really glorious. That's hard to say. Bai Lu shook her head. If second young lady also marries into the Wang family, even though they are equal wives, there is still a difference between D and Shu. Third miss only had one concubine, while second miss at least had third master as her maiden family. In the end, the Wang family would be biased towards second Mississippi. Third miss may be pleased with herself now, but the days ahead are long. Shen Miao smiled. Wrong, third older sister is a powerful person. Bai Lu and Shuang Jiang looked at Shen Miao together. Shen Miao said, even if there is a day when Shen Yu marries into the Wang family, she would definitely not be comparable to Shen Dongling. I think that the reason why the Wang family would treat the third household so coldly was because the Wang family knew that the matter of exchanging marriages was suggested by Shen Yu. Which man in the world would like a wife who disliked him? Even a man's dignity would not allow it. And for people like Shen Yu and Shen Dongling, when they married into another residence, before they gave birth to a child, they could only rely on Wang Bai's favor. Unfortunately, Shen Yu has already lost. Shen Yu is not able to get Wang Bai's favor, and one feared that Wang Bai would not let her give birth easily, even though there is a difference between the D and Shu. But as the same wife, whoever gives birth to the child first would naturally be the one to make the decision. Shen Miao said lightly. Moreover, with Shen Yu's brains, how would she be able to compete with Shen Dongling? Now that Shen Dongling is able to pull herself out of this matter, and was able to make Wang Bai not blame her, and even bring Wan Yinyang out of the Shen residence, and was able to throw back all the dirty water that the third household threw at her. How could such a powerful person be defeated in Shen Yu's hands? Bai Lu and Shuang Jiang were both surprised, and after a long while Shuang Jiang said, it seems that third young lady is indeed a powerful person. She is the only one in the Shen residence who has some prospects. Shen Miao said, help me to grind the ink. Bai Lu went ahead to find the scented ink, and as she was grinding it, she saw Shen Miao taking out a brush and paper, as if she was going to write something. Bai Lu asked, is young lady going to write a letter? Shen Miao declined to comment. Naturally, Shen Yu had created such a big wave of trouble for herself, which made Shen Miao feel happy. But she did not forget that in the previous lifetime, the third household also contributed a lot in the downfall of the Shen family's first household. There would be a day when she would get her revenge for this big gift. Actually, not only the third household knew how to hit someone when they were down, she also knew how to do it. She did not want to do it herself from the beginning to the end, but if the third household were to force her to do it herself, she would not mind letting the third household walk faster. Shen Wan and Chen Roqiu quarreled all day long, and at this time, they needed the comfort of a confidant. It was time for Cang Ziqing to go on stage. Chapter 626. The matter of Shen Yu and Shen Dongling exchanging marriage eventually caused unimaginable consequences. Under the Wang family's request, Shen Wan could only helplessly agree to let Shen Yu marry over as a pinfei. One did not know what Shen Dongling had said to the Wang family, but the Wang family was not willing to listen to Shen Wan's explanation. A good marriage could not end up as enmity, so Shen Wan had no other choice. But this was not the result that Shen Yu wanted. This time, there was no one else who could exchange marriage with Shen Yu. So Shen Yu simply shed all pretense of cordiality and quarreled all day long that she was not willing to marry into the Wang family and could not tolerate Shen Dongling to be on equal footing with her. Not only was Shen Yu unwilling, Chen Roqiu was also very angry. Chen Roqiu was considered a person who knew the big picture normally, but this matter concerned Shen Yu's lifelong matter, so she could not tolerate it, and insisted that Shen Wan go to the Wang family for an explanation. The third household's husband and wife, who had always been affectionate, had frequent conflicts these days, which made the servants in Qiushui Yuan not dare to breathe loudly. It was the same today. Chen Roqiu paced back and forth in the room, and suddenly turned to Shen Wan and said anxiously, "What is the Wang family thinking now? One cannot let Yuer drag on like this. Shen Dongling, that little slut, is occupying our Yuer's reputation. Could it be that she still wants to be a proper young foreign? Master, go to the Wang family to argue." She kept saying little slut, which was totally different from her usual good upbringing and mannerisms. Shen Wan could not help but frown. He said patiently, "At this moment, one can only let Yuer marry over as a pinfei, before making any other plans. You quarrel all day like this, Yuer will not be at peace, so there is no other way." "Master," Chen Roqiu screamed, "Yuer is also your daughter, and also the property daughter of our third household, and one had watched her grow up like a pearl or jade. How can you say to let her be a pinfei, moreover to be on equal footing with that little slut, Shen Dongling? Even if this matter is Yuer's fault, there must be a reason for Shen Dongling's seduction. How can you be so heartless?" It seemed that Chen Roqiu's voice pierced his ears, and Shen Wan said angrily, "Then what do you say? The longer the matter was delayed, the one who would suffer would be Yuer. Just like what you said, if it gets out, Shen Dongling, a Shu daughter, will not be affected at all, but Yuer will be pointed at and laughed at by others, and the Shen residence will also become a joke. What about you?" Chen Roqiu jumped in shock from Shen Wan's angry voice and somewhat shrunk back, but when she thought of Shen Yu she said, "But one cannot let Yuer suffer a loss like this? No, I have to go to the Wang mansion myself." "Enough," Shen Wan angrily said. "You stay in the residence well and look after Shen Yu. Not giving me any trouble is the right way." Chen Roqiu was stunned. After living with Shen Wan for so many years, even when he was the angriest, Shen Wan had never said such words to her. It was as if he was disgusted and impatient. Her heart tightened and she subconsciously said, "You and I are young husband and wife. We used to love each other, and we agreed that we wouldn't take concubines. Now, you're saying that I've lost my beauty. Mother keeps saying that I'm going to take a concubine for you. Are you tempted? Are you disgusted by me?" Chen Roqiu had always been a little small-minded. Even though she was from a scholarly family, she loved to have a small temper, and Shen Wan also liked this. After a long period of sweet days, it was inevitable that it would be boring. If one were to put on an act that was just right, it would make men feel pity for her. Unfortunately, this pretense was fun to sit on when he was young, but when he was old, it was a little unappetizing. Especially these few days Chen Roqiu had been running around because of Shen Yu's matter, and her complexion was a lot more haggard, and did not take care of herself. In addition to that rude and shrewish scene just now, in Shen Wan's eyes, it was somewhat ridiculous. He looked at Chen Roqiu lightly and said, "If you want to think like that, then think like that." He then turned and left with a flick of his sleeves. Chapter 627. Chen Roqiu was in a daze as she stood shakily at the same spot. The maids beside her, Shiqing and Hua Yi, quickly supported her. A layer of fear gradually rose in Chen Roqiu's heart. She suddenly felt that something was slowly changing, and the scariest thing was that she didn't know where the change had started. The commotion in Autumn Water Garden quickly spread to the other courtyards, such as the West Courtyard, which had been put aside for a long time. The Western Courtyard was originally so spacious that it was almost desolate. Ever since Chang Ziqing moved in, she often moved some flowers and plants, and managed the Western Courtyard into a unique and elegant place. At this moment Chang Ziqing was sitting in the room, and kept the letter on the table, and casually placed it on the table. Zhao Mama opened the windows to prevent the room from being stuffy, and said to Chang Ziqing, "Is it a letter sent by eldest Shin Foreign?" Chang Ziqing nodded her head. The letter that Luo Shuiyan sent over. Actually, Chang Ziqing was not sure if it was Luo Shuiyan or Xin Miao. Once she thought of Xin Miao, her mind would think of that young female's clear eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything, making her involuntarily shiver. Luo Shuiyan said in the letter that Chang Ziqing had not gone to the Xin mansion for a long time, and if she was free, she could go to the Xin mansion for a visit. Luo Shuiyan also had the heart to find a good family for Chang Ziqing. It was said to find a good family, but Chang Ziqing thought of something else from this letter. A few days ago, she switched from dealing with Shun Xian to dealing with Shen Wan, and it was much easier to deal with Shen Wan than what Song Ziqing thought. There was no other reason, but that Shen Wan was a person who liked elegance, and Song Ziqing was to Shen Wan's liking. Ever since the incident with Shen Yu and Shen Dongling, the contradiction between Shen Wan and Shen Roqiu was getting bigger and bigger, and he was very fond of coming to the western courtyard. Chang Ziqing naturally became a beauty who could understand. Over time, Shen Wan became more and more used to running over here, and Chang Ziqing did not ignore the growing appreciation in Shen Wan's eyes. He had to strike while the iron was hot. Right now was it that hot moment? Just as she was thinking, a maid outside came in to report that Shen Wan had arrived. Zhao Mama quickly retreated out. When Shen Wan entered the room, he saw Chang Ziqing holding a letter in her hands, reading it with relish. He asked curiously, "Whose letter is this? Why are you so engrossed?" Song Ziqing seemed to have just seen Shen Wan coming in and smiled as she put down the letter in her hands. "It is a letter sent by eldest Shen Foreign." The smile on Shen Wan's face froze. He pretended to ask casually, "Why did eldest sister send a letter?" Song Ziqing smiled. "The eldest foreign of the Shen family is a good person, and said that she wants to be a matchmaker with me. Most likely it is because she sees that I do not have anyone to rely on at such an old age, and it is also a good intention." She spoke candidly and glanced at Shen Wan before continuing. "If Third Master is free one day, please help me take a look. Perhaps you might even know the good family that First Madam mentioned to me." She was still laughing happily, making her look even more beautiful and alluring. Shen Wan, on the other hand, was gradually unable to laugh anymore. This little matter in the Shen residence was not unique, and was also being discussed in Rongjing Tang. Old Shen Foreign sat on the couch, and the maid behind her gently massaged her shoulders. Wang Mama said softly, "Old Foreign, Third Master went to the western courtyard again." Old Shen Foreign's closed eyes opened slightly, and seemed to be thinking about something. After a moment, she slowly closed her eyes again and said, "So be it." Even though the status is slightly lower, it is after all a concubine, and one does not care about the status. Wang Mama also smiled. This time Old Foreign can be assured. Originally one wanted Third Master to take in concubines, but Third Master was not willing. Now with young lady Ziqing first. In the future Third Master will take in others, and after spreading branches and leaves, one would be able to give birth to a boy and a half. Chapter 628. Old Shen Foreign sighed. "If it was not that the Shen residence does not have a grandchild, why would I need to intervene in his courtyard? Originally he protected Chen Roqiu tightly, and did not even listen to me, this mother's words, seeing how Chen Roqiu was so arrogant in front of me. At that time I said that one is not afraid that Chen Roqiu would be favored, and not be able to give birth to a son. Males are all greedy for fresh things, and one day she would be despised. Did I not say it correctly?" Wang Mama quickly echoed Old Shen Foreign's words. "That is, Old Foreign has eaten more salt than they have eaten rice. Thus naturally one can see the future, and have great foresight." Old Shen Foreign seemed to enjoy Wang Mama's flattery, and a trace of pride appeared on her face as she said, "If one knew that number 3 likes this kind of female, I would have found more Shu daughters from scholarly families. Chen Roqiu always think that she is invincible under the heavens, and did not look at her own appearance. She thought that her maiden family had read a few more books, and was so complacent that she could not even manage a family properly." Finishing, she continued, "I see that Chang Ziqing is not bad. well-behaved and polite and not pretentious. It is understandable that number 3 likes her. But till now one's mouth has not been broken, Wang Mama said. If this goes on, when third foreign discover the clues, one fear that there would be a ruckus. Ruckus? She dare. Old Shun foreign said angrily, and then thought carefully before tiredly waving her hands. But it would be troublesome if there is a ruckus. Never mind. Since both of them are interested, after a few days you go up and help. What is done cannot be undone. I want to see if Madame Chun would still dare to stop it. If she dare, the Shun family would not be able to take on such a jealous and childless matriarch. Just send her a divorce letter. Wang Mama could only carefully agree. The matter of the Shun residence being in a mess because of the third household finally reached the other owner of the matter, Shin Dongling's ears. Xinghua was carefully brewing tea for Shin Dongling. It was a top-quality Mount June silver needle, even though the Wang family was not considered as rich as a country, but they were particular about food and clothing, and were much better than the Shu daughters of the second household. It was obvious that Shin Dongling was also living well. If the Shin family was present, they would definitely be surprised that this leisurely and contented beauty was actually the yes-man Shu daughter of the second household. Shin Dongling picked up the tea and took a sip. Xinghua said worriedly, "This servant heard that the people from the Shin residence came over again this morning, and said that they want to marry second young lady over as a pinchi. If the second miss really married into the family, what would happen to miss? I'm afraid that third foreign and third master will make things difficult for Mississippi. Don't worry, she won't get married." Shin Dongling smiled. It is impossible for the Wang family to let Shin Yu enter the household, and even if Shin Yu entered the household, it would not be possible for her to live well. What is the point of paying attention to a person that is destined to be guarded against? It would be better to pick a few good-looking fabrics to send over to Inyang, and let her make a few new clothes. At this moment, Shin Dongling's every movement seemed to have the air of a mistress of the house. Xinghua thought for a moment and smiled again. Young lady is naturally intelligent. It is fine if this servant does not understand. One do not know what young lady said to Gentleman Wang, that now one does not like the people from the third household. But the people from the third household also reap what they sow. It was clearly third young lady who proposed the exchange of marriage, but they still want to throw all the dirty water onto young lady. It is really too vicious. Shin Yu said that everything was planned by Shin Dongling, and when the exchange of marriage was spread to the Wang family, Xinghua was extremely angry. At the beginning when Shin Yu begged Shin Dongling to replace her in the marriage, she clearly said that she would not implicate Shin Dongling, and turned her head to cast her aside. The skill of changing one's face was just too fast. Xinghua scoffed at it. If not, why would it be said that Shin Wan was intelligent for a lifetime, but muddled for a moment? The reason why the Wang family did not like the third household was because Shin Dongling said one sentence to Wang Bai. Shin Yu was in love with Prince Ding, Fu Xiuyi, and the third household also had the intention to stand at Fu Xiuyi's side. Chapter 629. Shen Wan wholeheartedly wanted Shin Yu to dispel the idea of marrying to Fu Xiuyi and pick the Wang family, because in the fight for the heir apparent, the Wang family did not stand on Fu Xiuyi's side. In the end, Shen Yu admired Prince Ding, and the third household of the Shen family supported Prince Ding. If Wang Bai married Shin Yu, it would inevitably cause trouble in the future. If the Wang family and the third household of the Shen family were to marry, there would inevitably be discord in the future. Thus, as long as the Wang family was not stupid, they would not let Shin Yu enter the doors. Even Shin Dongling's exchange of marriage was a blessing for the Wang family. Was it not good to be able to cut off the relationship with Prince Ding? Shin Yu and the Wang family's fate was destined to be broken. But Shin Dongling would not feel pity or sympathy because of this. What you sow, what you reap. All of this was Shin Yu's own sin. So naturally she had to swallow the bitter fruit herself. To let Shin Yu marry in the name of a pinfei was the Wang family deliberately making things difficult. Even if Shin Wan agreed, would Shin Yu obediently do so? Shin Dongling did not think so. Not only did Shin Dongling not think so, Shen Miao also did not think so. Jingzhe said. The Shen residence is in a big mess. This time the show really makes one feel lively. Shen Miao smiled without a care. Perhaps. The bigger the mess, the more we are able to cut off the relationship with it. Jingzhe looked at Shen Miao and walked to the side to whisper to Guyu. What happened to young lady these few days? Why is one not in a good mood? Guyu was startled and looked over to Shen Miao's side. She saw Shen Miao sitting in the courtyard, and her book was not flipped. Her hand was supporting her chin as she looked at the sky lazily, not knowing what she was thinking about. Seems to be a little. Guyu also nodded her head. These few days there is no spirit no matter what. More than spirit. Jingzhe shook her head. If it was in the past, young lady would be somewhat happy to see the Shen residence fall into misfortune. Now the Shen residence is in a mess, but young lady only waved her hands when she heard it, and seemed to have no interest. Could it be that one is sick? Able to eat and drink, able to walk and jump. What kind of illness would be like this? Guyu rolled her eyes. Do you think this is lovesickness? Who is suffering from lovesickness? A voice came from behind and both of them jumped in shock. When they turned back to look, it was Luo Ling walking over. Jingzhe and Guyu quickly greeted. This servant greets Biao young master. Luo Ling waved his hands and walked over to Shen Miao in front of the stone table. When he walked over to Shen Miao's side, he saw that Shen Miao was still sitting in a daze and asked, Youngest Biao sister? Shen Miao turned her head back and when she saw Luo Ling she smiled. Older brother Luo Ling sat down opposite Shen Miao. His right hand was still not recovered, but Shen Qiu had found a left-handed sword technique manual for Luo Ling, and these days he really started to seriously practice with his left hand. His state of mind was much more open, and the way he talked was even better than before. He seemed to be even more warm like a piece of jade. Occasionally when he walked out, there would be young ladies who shyly peeking at him. Hearing Luo Tan's joke, several young ladies of official families in the Ding capital secretly fancied Luo Ling. Luo Ling said, What is Biao youngest sister thinking about that you are so lost in thought? Shen Miao smiled gently. Nothing much. Just sitting in a daze. Luo Ling thought of the lovesickness that Jingzhe and Guyu were talking about, and his heart sank. He looked at Shen Miao and asked without any trace. One thought that Biao youngest sister has reached the age of marriage, and thus became somewhat mischievous. Shen Miao did not seem to understand Luo Ling's words and said lightly, Talking about the age of marriage, perhaps it is Biao older sister Tan who is anxious. Luo Ling smiled and said, That is also true. Shen Miao looked at Luo Ling. Why is older brother Ling looking for me? Luo Ling was startled, and a trace of awkwardness could not help but rise on his handsome face. He originally came over to take a look at Shen Miao, and when Shen Miao asked him about it in such a serious manner, he did not know how to answer. But he suddenly had an idea. Oh, a few days ago Biao youngest sister gave me some pastries, and it is somewhat too sweet, so I came over to tell Biao youngest sister about it. Chapter 630. Guyu, who was behind, had a somewhat resentful look. Her young lady was not a chef in the Shen residence, nor was she a pastry chef who specialized in making pastries. Luo Ling's words were to blame Shen Miao after eating Shen Miao's pastries. Jingzhe, however, was holding back her laughter. Guyu's wooden head could not see it, but she was quick-witted. This young Biao master obviously wanted to get close to Shen Miao, but could not find any other excuse. But Jingzhe looked at her young lady who had no heart for romance, and shook her head with some pity. The falling flowers yearn for love, but the heartless brook. One fear that her young lady would not be able to appreciate young Biao master's intentions. Shen Miao indeed frowned and asked, Too sweet? I did not add a lot of sugar juice. Luo Ling scratched his head awkwardly and thought of something. Kuo Tanner once said that Biao youngest sister knows how to make fruit juice flavored pastries. Is it possible to make that with me next time? Shen Miao was startled. Luo Tan often came to Shen Miao's courtyard to talk to Shen Miao, and occasionally the pastries that were placed on the table would be eaten without hesitation. Shen Miao tried to make those pastries herself. After all, she had not made them in her entire life. Thus it was inevitable that she was a little unfamiliar with it. But Luotan felt that it was very delicious, and ate the whole basket of pastries. That pastries were mixed with fruit juice, which was the taste of the imperial family of the Great Liang. Previously Xie Jingxing asked Shin Miao to make 2 baskets of pastries for him, to fill his stomach, when he was silencing people. Afterwards Princess Ming'an was really killed by Xie Jingxing, but the 2 baskets of pastries were given to Xie Jingxing. Afterwards Xie Jingxing disappeared for a period of time, and these days Shin Miao was watching the farce in the Shin residence, and at the same time making pastries, thinking of repaying the other's favor. Thinking like this, Shin Miao's eyes gradually drooped down. Speaking of which, Xie Jingxing had left for a few days, and Prince Rui of the Great Liang just casually left, and there was not much news in the Ding capital. Xie Jingxing did not know if it was safe or not. After all, he still carried the identity of the little Marquis of the residence of the Marquis of Linen, and it was very difficult. Luo Ling saw that Shin Miao was in a daze again, and waved his hands in front of her. "Biao, youngest sister?" Shin Miao recovered to her senses and smiled apologetically at Luo Ling. "Apologies, older Biao brother. That pastry recipe was made by me carelessly, and at that time it was only by luck that I was able to make that basket, and it was all eaten by older Biao's sister. If one were to make that kind again, one do not know if one would be able to do it." Jingzhi's eyes widened behind Shin Miao. Her young lady could actually lie to Biao young master with a straight face. Jingzhi naturally knew that Shin Miao did not know how to make those pastries. Shin Miao had memorized the recipe, and even made it herself, looking like she was very skilled. So why was she not willing to make a basket for young Master Luo? Could it be that young Master Cousin had offended his young lady? Jingzhi was puzzled. Luo Ling did not expect that Shin Miao would reject, and was at a loss of what to do. Shin Miao's expression was leisurely, and there was no trace of guilt on her face. Since it was the pastry of the Great Liang imperial family, the process was complicated. She could make it once, but she did not have the patience to make it for others all day long. Luo Ling. It was better to let the pastry chef in the kitchen make something else for him. As they were talking at this end, they did not think that their cheerful and witty appearance would be seen by another person far away under the eaves. That person's white robes fluttered as he waved his paper fan, and had the appearance of an elegant gentleman. It was Gao Yang. After Xie Jingxing left, Gao Yang followed Xie Jingxing's instructions and stayed in the Shen mansion, saying that he wanted to look at Luo Ling's injuries. Thus it was convenient to see Shin Miao's movements at all times. With one look, it was not a big deal as he could see Luo Ling and Shin Miao talking in such a lively manner. Gao Yang's gaze towards Luo Ling carried some sympathy, before looking at Shin Miao, and shaking his head before sighing deeply. Chapter 631. Why are you sighing? A head suddenly popped out from behind Gao Yang, and almost scared Gao Yang to take a step back. That person came out from behind Gao Yang. Her eyes were lively and full of heroic spirit. If it was not Luo Tan, who else could it be? Dr. Gao. Luo Tan asked. What are you standing here for? She followed Gao Yang's gaze and saw Shin Miao and Luo Ling sitting and talking before looking at Gao Yang again. Gao Yang felt somewhat uneasy when he was stared at by Luo Tan's strange gaze, but he saw Luo Tan suddenly speaking. I know. So you like youngest Biao sister? Gao Yang was so shocked that he quickly reached out to cover Luo Tan's mouth. What a joke. Xie Jingxing did not only send him alone in the Shin mansion, there were also other secret guards. If any blabbermouthed secret guard were to say this to Xie Jingxing, then he would not need to stay in Mingqi anymore. Gao Yang looked at Luo Tan, who was struggling in his hands, and a trace of helplessness flashed across his heart. Luo Tan was someone who specially found trouble for him, and was scammed more than once. Luo Tan finally broke free from Gao Yang's hands, and most likely realized that her voice was too loud, so she lowered her voice, but her expression was still proud, as if she had caught hold of Gao Yang's weakness. She said, So you like youngest Biao sister? So you are jealous? Do not think yourself clever. Gao Yang said. This one does not dare to have any thoughts about fifth Shin young lady. Luo Tan's lips twitched. At least you have self-knowledge. My youngest Biao sister is such a smart and good-looking young lady, and it is hard to find one in the Ding capital. You are a doctor and still want to be delusional? Why not look at the mirror? The disdain in her tone deeply pierced Gao Yang's heart, and made Gao Yang have an impulse to immediately look for a mirror, to see if he was as unpresentable as Luo Tan said. Thinking of His Highness, Gao Yang sneered and his chin pointed towards Luo Ling's direction. I am delusional and he is qualified. Luo Tan looked at Luo Ling and sighed. Older brother Ling is very good, but unfortunately he is not youngest Biao sister's husband. These words were somewhat out of Gao Yang's expectations, as he thought that Luo Tan would wholeheartedly protect her own older Biao brother, and asked, Oh, why do you say that? Biao younger sister is a person with her own ideas, and brother Ling's personality is too gentle, so there is no spark between them. I think Biao younger sister only treats brother Ling as a brother. Luo Tan felt it was a pity. You still know what sparks are? Gao Yang was surprised and immediately asked. Then tell me, who can your little cousin ignite sparks with? Gao Yang was just casually teasing Luo Tan, but did not think that Luo Tan would really seriously ponder over it before finally saying, someone like Prince Rue. Gao Yang was taken aback. Prince Rue is good-looking and mysterious. He is also a person who values affection and righteousness, and should be the only good man in this world. A person like my youngest Biao sister should be worthy of such a husband. But it's probably just a thought. Luo Tan lowered her voice and looked up to see Gao Yang smiling at her. Only then did she realize that she had said too much to Gao Yang. Her relationship with Gao Yang wasn't that good. Luo Tan instantly changed her expression and whispered to Gao Yang's ear. Hey, the last time I went to the residence of Prince Rue, you got hold of my weakness. Today I know that you admire my youngest Biao sister in your heart, so I got hold of your weakness. Both of us have hold of each other's weakness, so we are even. In the future you can forget about using the matter of the residence of Prince Rue to threaten me. Be careful that I will tell youngest Biao sister about your schemes, and you will not be able to lift your head up in front of her for the rest of your life. Luo Tan said fiercely. Gao Yang really did not know whether to laugh or cry. In fact, compared to Xin Miao, he was more afraid of Xie Jingxing. However, seeing how Luo Tan was acting all smart and crafty, the corners of her eyebrows and eyes were full of quick-wittedness, he suddenly became interested. He leaned closer and said, Good. Then let us get hold of each other's weakness, how about it? He was born to be as graceful as a jade gentleman, and when he leaned closer to speak, he was also very handsome. Luo Tan was a person who liked to look at good things, and like this, she did not know why she felt guilty. She fiercely pushed Gao Yang to one side. She was a person who practiced martial arts, and that one slap almost made Gao Yang vomit blood. Luo Tan turned and walked away as she said angrily, Lecher. Gao Yang touched his chin and slowly smiled. These trivial matters in the Shen mansion did not attract Xin Miao's attention, and in her eyes, they were all unimportant and boring matters. Until the second day, something happened in the Shen residence, and this matter was somewhat interesting. Shen Yu escaped. Chapter 632. The Shen residence was currently in an uproar. Most likely it was because Shen Wan said that he wanted Xin Yu to marry into the Wang family as a second wife that made Xin Yu panic. And in the situation where Xin Yu could not find a way, she actually made a bold move and escaped from the Shen residence. Before leaving, she even packed up all the valuable gold and silver items in the room and carried a large load for Chun Roqiu. Naturally, Shen Wan was unable to restrain his anger and roared at Chun Roqiu. I asked you to look after her. How could she escape? Chun Roqiu's heart naturally had lingering fear. She loved her daughter and did not completely put Xin Yu under house arrest like what Shen Wan said, but she did not think that her feelings of love for her daughter would be used by Xin Yu. Now that Xin Yu had escaped, she did not know what to do and said to Shen Wan, One have already sent people to search. Master, you definitely did not do it on purpose. She is afraid. Even at this time, she still did not know her mistake, and was still finding excuses for Xin Yu. Shenwan sneered. She is afraid? She is afraid that she will exchange marriage with others? Afraid that she will leave home, marry as a wife and run away as a concubine? I, Shenwan, do not have such a shameless daughter. How can you say that about her? Chen Rochio's eyes widened. That is your daughter. Shenwan had been a civil official his entire life, and it was rare for him to say such heavy words. Moreover, the one he scolded was his own daughter. Chen Rochio did not dare to believe her own eyes. After Shenwan said those words, he looked at Chen Rochio, and a trace of impatience and disgust flashed in his eyes before he turned and strode out of the room. Chen Rochio sensitively felt that something was wrong with Shenwan, and almost collapsed to the ground. She grabbed Shiqing's arm, and her nails dug deep into it. It was so painful that Shiqing's face turned pale, but she did not dare to move. The commotion in Xiaoshui Yuan quickly spread to Rong Jingtang. Old Shen Foreign leisurely sipped her tea, and when she heard that, she smiled without a care. Do it, do it. Chen Rochio, just do it. She really think that she is a new daughter-in-law. After a pause, she asked again. What kind of mother will teach what kind of daughter? All of them do not let me be at ease. Zhang Mama carefully massaged her shoulders and said, One do not know if the person who is looking for third young lady has been found. Why should we care about him? Old Shen Foreign, however, got angry and said, I still do not know how much ability she has and would return with her tail between her legs before long. Losing the Shen family's face for no reason. Let Lao San take care of it, but I do not want to manage these trivial matters. She suddenly thought of something and frowned before asking, Is Lao San still running to the west courtyard? Zhang Mama nodded. These days, third foreign and third master often quarrel, and third master runs to the west courtyard more frequently, staying there for more than half a day. Old Shen Foreign nodded her head, and a glint of light flashed in her eyes. Since that is the case, it is time to take the right path, and quickly give birth to a son for number 3. I still want to hold a grandson. She sneered. Chen Rochio, that idiot, should also see clearly how much weight she has. Zhang Mama, go and do one thing. Everything in this Shen residence is not going smoothly, so it is time to hold a happy event to get rid of the bad luck. Zhang Mama nodded her head in agreement. That night, Shenwan did not return to the room for a long time, and Chen Rochio's heart had some misgivings. In the past, when Shenwan was socializing outside, he would always send a servant to pass a message, but she did not know where he went today. Thinking of the quarrel with Shenwan during the day, her heart could not help but feel somewhat anxious. When females reached her age, they would be somewhat sluggish and not as fresh and tender as a young female. But when placed on a male, it was just the right age. Now that there was discord between Shenwan and her, it would be bad if someone secretly took in a new woman outside. Chen Rochio was different from Ren Wanyin. Ren Wanyin and Shen Gui's previous thoughts had long been wiped out by Shen Gui taking in women one by one. As long as she could sit firmly in the position of the matriarch of the family, Ren Wanyin did not care about the rest. Chen Rochio had occupied Shenwan's favor for so many years. What old Shen Foreign said was right. Chen Rochio was extremely jealous, and she would not allow Shenwan to have other women. Chapter 633. Thinking of this, Chen Rochio was somewhat restless. Huai walked in from outside and said, Foreign, old Foreign had obtained a few bolts of cloth, and asked you to send one over to young Lady Chang. Old Shen Foreign had always not placed Chang Ziqing in her eyes, and usually treated it as if there was no such person in the residence. So why would she think of Chang Ziqing today? Chen Rochio frowned. Old Foreign can just send someone to send it over. Why do I need to go? Huai also did not understand. Most likely it is because Old Foreign and Chang Ziqing have a good personal relationship. Chen Rochio was currently feeling uneasy, and since Old Shen Foreign made her do things, it was rare for her to be distracted. Thus she did not say anything and put on her outer robe, and walked towards the western courtyard with Huai and Huai. At this moment the sky was already dark, but it was not the time to rest. Chen Rochio guessed that Chang Ziqing was not asleep, yet so she did not inform anyone. Upon reaching the western courtyard, Unexpectedly, the lights in the western courtyard were extinguished early. Chen Roqiu felt it was somewhat strange, but saw Zhao Mama surprised when she saw her, and seemed to be somewhat flustered. Why is third foreign here? Old foreign let me come to send cloth to younger sister Qing. Chen Roqiu said and then poked her head into the boudoir and asked. Why? Younger sister Qing is already asleep? Yes. Zhao Mama said. These few days young lady's body is somewhat tired and slept earlier. Chen Roqiu felt it was somewhat strange, and felt that Zhao Mama's expression was very unnatural. Looking at the few maids around, they all lowered their heads, as if they were afraid to see something. Coincidentally, there was a faint movement in the room, and it was not very clear. But when the movement was heard, Zhao Mama's expression became even more nervous. Even though Chen Roqiu was curious, she did not want to have a conflict with Chang Ziqing. From her point of view, Chang Ziqing was perhaps a very good knife, and was the best to use to deal with the eldest household of the Shen family. Especially since she had not been successful today, there was a burst of anger that could not be vented, and the more she wanted to see the eldest household of the Shen family be unlucky. Chen Roqiu let the maid put down the cloth, and was about to leave when her footsteps suddenly stopped. Zhao Mama followed Chen Roqiu's gaze, and saw that Chang Ziqing's boudoir at the side of the courtyard window. The sachet was crimson with egrets embroidered on it. It was very exquisite. Chen Roqiu walked over and took the sachet. It was too late for Granny Zhao to stop them. When Shiqing and Hua Yi saw the sachet, they couldn't help but open their mouths. They were so shocked that they couldn't speak. On the day of Shen Yu's marriage, Chen Roqiu saw that Song Ziqing had brought along an extremely good-looking sachet. That sachet's workmanship was exquisite, and it was rare that Chen Roqiu could not bear to part with it. Song Ziqing was also generous, and gave that sachet to Chen Roqiu. Afterwards, because of Shen Yu's matter, Chen Roqiu wanted to make Shen Wan happy, so she gave that exquisite perfume bag to Shen Wan. The white egret embroidered on the sachet did not look feminine at all. Besides, the fragrance was not the scent of cosmetics. Chen Roqiu remembered that because there were tea leaves in the sachet, there was a fragrance of tea, but Chen Roqiu felt that the tea fragrance was too cold, so she added some dried osmanthus flowers that were left in autumn. There were no two leaves that were exactly the same in the world. Even if Song Ziqing was clever and skillful, she would make a sachet that was exactly the same, but not every sachet was filled with osmanthus flowers by Chen Roqiu. Chen Roqiu picked up the sachet, and her hands were actually trembling. Finally, she placed it under her nose and smelled it with determination. The sweet scent of osmanthus mixed with the fragrance of tea slowly entered Chen Roqiu's nose, and Chen Roqiu suddenly closed her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, her gaze made Shiqing and Hua Yi somewhat afraid. Chapter 634. She suddenly turned towards Zhao Mama, and before Zhao Mama's flustered expression could be put away, it fell into Chen Roqiu's eyes. Chen Roqiu sneered and said, "Do all of you really think that I am a fool?" Finishing, she quickly walked towards Chang Ziqing's boudoir, and was about to break the door open. "Foreign must not." Zhao Mama hurriedly stopped her. Chen Roqiu asked, "Why not?" Zhao Mama was unable to speak. Chen Roqiu's heart could not help but sink, and only felt that it was about to be torn apart. However, the more painful it was, the colder her face became. She said to Shiqing and Hua Yi, "Smash. Ruthlessly smash it for me. I would like to see which pair of adulterers are shamelessly doing such illicit things in a place like my Shinfu. Smash." Shiqing and Hua Yi did not dare to disobey the orders, and immediately went forward to smash the door open. Chen Roqiu conveniently took a lamp at the side, and did not wait for Zhao Mama to stop her before walking in. The heater in the room was burning brightly. Clothes, shoes, and jewelry were scattered all over the floor. The two of them were lying on top of each other on the bed. It was a charming and alluring scene. That female's cheeks were pink, and she was embarrassed, but that male unhurriedly pulled the clothes over to cover both of their bodies. When one turned around to look, it was Shen Wan. The room was filled with the fragrance of wine. It was obvious that they were drunk and sleeping together, but it could not be described as a mistake. One had feelings and one had intentions. Chen Roqiu and Shen Wan had been husband and wife for so many years. If Shen Wan did not like it, why would he let Chang Ziqing do it? Moreover, this was Chang Ziqing's courtyard, and it was Shen Wan who took the initiative to come over. Chen Roqiu closed her eyes and fiercely held back the tears that were about to overflow and screamed, "Adulterous couple!" The wind blew in the night. In a place a few hundred li away from the Ding capital, there was an inn. A purple-clad youth sat at the table in the middle and looked at the letter in his hands. In a flash, he raised his hand and threw the letter into the brazier at the side, and the letter instantly turned into ashes. "Master, there is a letter from the great Liang." The secret guard Nanqi by the side said, "His Majesty urges you to quickly return. No need to care about him," Xie Jingxing said without much care. "After the matter is done, I will naturally return. His Majesty is afraid that you will delay the matter," Nanqi said. The people at the other end are also paying attention to Ming Qi's movements. Previously His Majesty said that he would choose a consort for you, and after a while, it is almost time. If Master still does not return at this time, one fear that there will be delays. Xie Jingxing glanced at Nanqi, and Nanqi immediately kept quiet, but his heart was filled with bitterness. Emperor Yonglu had always been a man of his word, and his master was lawless. The servants caught in the middle became the most difficult to deal with. Moreover, the matter of choosing a concubine. Others were not clear about it, but these secret guards who followed Xie Jingxing could see it clearly. Xie Jingxing was obviously somewhat special towards the young lady of the Shen family. Not to mention what Emperor Yonglu thought of this matter. The dark guards felt that this was an extremely unreliable matter. Shen Miao was a Ming Qi's person, so how would the Shen family agree to their own daughter getting involved with the great Liang's people? But they did not dare to say these words in front of their master. If their master was not happy, they would be sent to guard the tower prison, and the gains would not make up for the losses. Imperial older brother is bored all day, Xie Jingxing said. If one is really bored, one can go back and tell him about the Qing country's plans, so that he will not worry about things that he should not worry about. Nanqi wiped the sweat off his head. He could not afford to offend both of them, and his heart was really blushing with shame. Just as he was thinking, he saw Tai Yi walking in from the outside with a box in his hands. One did not know what it was. When he entered the room, he placed the box on the table and said, "The jewelry that young lord ordered is done, and the banknotes have been sent over." Chapter 635. Behind him, Nanqi almost choked on his own saliva. What did Tai Yi say just now? Dozens of jewelry. Nanqi sneaked a peek at the table. Sure enough, the box on the table was exquisitely made. It was a small box with intricate patterns carved on it. Upon closer inspection, it seemed to be a tiger's head. What was that? Xie Jingxing opened the box and took a look. It was filled to the brim with all kinds of jewelry. Cat's eye ring, jade bracelet, pearl head mask, jade hairpin. All of these items were of excellent quality. Just this small box alone was worth thousands of gold coins. Nanqi thought in his heart, could it be that this was something to give to the young lady of the Shen family? But the young lady of the Shen family did not seem to have the temperament to be fond of jewels and jade. "Master, are you sure you're going to give this away?" However, he was generous enough. Xie Jingxing closed the box and said, "Correct." Suddenly he thought of something and asked, "What recent movements does Fu Xiui have?" Tai Yi thought for a moment and said, "There is no movement. He is just slightly closer to the Crown Prince." "Crown Prince?" Xie Jingxing raised an eyebrow and said, "Watch him carefully. Fu Xiui is not a simple character." Tai Yi acknowledged and was about to leave. "Wait," Xie Jingxing called out to him. "Shen, you also pay attention." One did not know what kind of luck the Shen family had these few days, as they were in a mess all day long. First there was the matter of Shen Dongling and Shen Yu exchanging marriage. Then there was the matter of the Wang family not accepting Shen Yu. And afterwards Shen Yu simply carried the burden and ran away. Now it was even better as Chen Roqiu caught Chang Zhaoqing and Shen Wan in bed. As a guest of the Shen residence, and the daughter of old General Shen's old friend, Song Zaiqing's relationship with the Shen residents should be polite. Other than old Shen foreign, the rest of the people would politely deal with Song Zaiqing when they saw her because the current matriarch of the household, Chen Roqiu, seemed to like her very much. Who knew that Song Zaiqing was so polite that she would be so polite to Shen Wan's couch? And Chen Ruoqiu was stabbed in the back by none other than her own meticulous younger sister. Chen Roqiu immediately started to make a ruckus all the way to Rongjingtang. In Rongjingtang, old Shen Foreign was sitting in the middle position. Chang Zaiqing and Shen Wan stood at the side. Shen Wan did not have any expression and Shen Gui had an expression of watching a good show. Chang Zaiqing's eyes drooped and did not speak, as if she was very ashamed. His son Chen Roqiu forced herself to keep back her tears and put on an attitude of not giving up. That's enough. Stop crying. As if she was finally fed up with Chen Roqiu's actions, old Shen Foreign said impatiently, "What is the matter with your own husband taking in a young lady, that it is worth you to cry to the heavens?" "Mother," Chen Roqiu shouted, "if master himself takes in young lady and promote her as a concubine, this daughter-in-law would naturally not say anything and would even take the initiative to prepare for husband. But the two of them did this in front of me, without making a sound in this courtyard. The entire courtyard kept me in the dark. They were clearly trying to humiliate me. Mother, I am also your daughter-in-law, and you are also a woman. If my husband wants to take a concubine, how can I stop him? Why is there a need to use such a humiliating method?" Third foreign. Song Zaiqing could not help but speak. "Today's matter is all a misunderstanding. It was me who drank too much, and it has nothing to do with third master. Zaiqing will not be anyone's concubine, and treat this matter as if it did not happen. Tomorrow I will pack up and leave the Shen residence. One hope that older sister will not blame third master." Compared to Chen Roqiu's aggressiveness, Song Zaiqing did not deny the involvement with Shen Wan, but put all the blame on herself, making herself seem to be more reasonable. Shen Wan's expression slightly changed and said, "What leaving? Naturally I should give you an explanation for the things that I did." Chapter 636. Chen Roqiu originally felt that Chang Zaiqing's words were somewhat ear-piercing, and at this moment when she heard that Shen Wan was still trying to keep Chang Zaiqing, it added oil to the fire and immediately said, "Explain? How do you explain? Are you going to chase me away and give the position of legal wife to her?" Finishing, she turned her head to look at Chang Zaiqing and pointed at Chang Zaiqing's nose as she scolded, "Good white-eyed wolf. You came to the Shen residence, and it was me who provided for you to eat and wear. Who knew that you actually have such evil intentions, and even climb onto brother-in-law's bed? Really shameless. Unable to seduce Shenxian, you came to seduce other people's husband. No wonder one is unable to marry at such an old age. Which proper son would dare to want such a slut that offends public morals?" Not only Shen Wan was stunned by her words, even old Shen Foreign was somewhat stunned. Chen Roqiu, who boasted of being from a scholarly family, was scolding like a shrew on the streets. This scene was a little too ugly to look at. Shen Wan was so angry that he could not speak, and Chang Zaiqing bit her lips, and her expression was very forbearing. It was Shen Gui who was watching the show at the side that could not help but say something. "Younger sister-in-law, this is not right of you. If one's husband wants to take in a concubine, you as a foreign naturally have to help manage it. Originally there was no one else in the 3 courtyards, and it is somewhat unreasonable. It is not easy to find a sister that can share your worries, so why are you still blocking it?" Shen Gui was originally lustful and naturally favored a beauty like Chang Zaiqing, but since Chang Zaiqing was Shen Wan's person, he would not touch his brother's woman. But Chen Roqiu's shrew behavior made Shen Gui look down on her. In the beginning when Ren Wanyin was around, she did not stop him from taking in a concubine. But the current Chen Roqiu was already extremely sensitive, and not only did Shen Gui's words not appease her, it made her feel like her foot was stepped on. She immediately scolded Shen Gui without distinguishing between right and wrong. Second older brother actually still have the leisure to care about the matters of the third household. One fear that second older brother's own matters have not been taken care of. Now that there is no more descendants, what is the use of bringing in 8 or 10 more? There is still no one to carry on the family line. It was Shen Gui's pain to not be able to have any children in this lifetime. But who knew that Chen Roqiu would poke Shen Gui's life door? Shen Gui was so angry that his face turned green, and old Shen Foren's expression did not look good. Lady Chen, then what do you want? Old Shen Foren said angrily. I've been married to the Shen family for so many years. I'm not an unreasonable person. Chase Chang Ziqing out, and I can treat it as nothing has happened. Chen Roqiu said. Impossible. Shen Wan said angrily. Since I touched her, I naturally have to take responsibility for her. Anyone can, just not her. Chen Roqiu pointed at Song Ziqing and shouted. She could not tolerate that Chang Ziqing actually betrayed her, and finally climbed onto Shen Wan's bed. This made her feel like she had suffered a great humiliation. The most important thing was that Chen Roqiu understood Song Ziqing too well. Song Ziqing's talent was not inferior to hers, and her temperament and appearance was also good. Even if it was Chen Roqiu herself, it was difficult to have any ill feelings towards Song Ziqing. Especially now that the matter had come to this point. Shen Wan's words were intentionally or unintentionally protecting Song Ziqing, which made Chen Roqiu feel a sense of crisis in her heart. As a female, she understood Shen Wan's thoughts better than anyone else. One fear that after Song Ziqing entered the door, not only would they have to share favors, it was even possible to have exclusive favors. It was impossible for her to find such a big rival for herself. Why can't she? The one who spoke was not anyone else but Shen Wan. At this moment Shen Wan was also unable to restrain his anger. Most likely it was because Chen Roqiu had a gentle and graceful appearance in front of him for so many years. But today she was like an unreasonable shrew, making Shen Wan feel that she was unbearable. Chen Roqiu said angrily, "Then divorce me. If you want to accept her, then divorce me first." Chapter 637. This made Shen Wan so angry that he was flipped upside down. Chen Roqiu, however, seemed to suddenly have confidence and became more aggressive. After obtaining a separation letter, naturally I will leave without a second word. You can take in whoever you like, and it is not a problem to promote. After all, we bridge to bridge and road to road, one parting and both are happy. After saying that, 2 streams of tears flowed down her cheeks. In the end she looked quite pitiful. Chen Roqiu's words were said out of anger. She and Shen Wan were a young married couple, and even if there were many contradictions these days, they were in harmony for so many years. Chen Roqiu understood Shen Wan, and knew that Shen Wan still had some feelings for her. Now he was only blinded by Song Ziqing, and it was impossible for Shen Wan to divorce her, because of Song Ziqing. Unfortunately Chen Roqiu calculated that Shen Wan still had feelings for her, but did not calculate old Shen Foren's attitude. Old Shen Foren sneered and looked at Chen Roqiu, as if she was looking at a jumping clown. Separation? You wish, but I'm afraid you've miscalculated. It is impossible for number 3 to give you a separation letter, and at most give you a divorce letter. Song Ziqing, who was about to speak, swallowed the words in her mouth when she heard it. Chen Roqiu was not to be outdone and asked, "Why must I be given a divorce letter?" "Why?" Old Shen Foren looked at her. "Ever since number 3 married you into the household, there were no other young ladies in the courtyard. Not to mention concubines, there was not even a Tong Fong. As the matriarch, you do not think of arranging things for your husband. This is being jealous and immoral. Number 3 is magnanimous, and I also do not want to intervene in number 3's courtyard matters. But after so many years, Chen Roqiu, you have calculated. You have been in the Shen residence for nearly 20 years, and have not given birth to a male or female for the third household. Let me ask you, who in the Ding capital is like you, to marry into one's husband's family, and not give birth to a son, but also not let one's husband give birth to a son with others? Do you want my Shin family to have no descendants? You are jealous and have no children. Just these 2 out of the 7 rules are enough to grant you a divorce letter. If one were to say that old Shin foreign came from the streets and did not have much experience, but when arguing with others, she would not suffer a loss in words. Especially since she had resentment towards Chun Ro Chio. Now that she caught Chun Ro Chio in the wrong, her resentment rose steadily, making Chun Ro Chio speechless. Yes, just based on the fact that there was no heir, the Shin family could push all the blame onto Chun Ro Chio. Even if it was in public, Chun Ro Chio would be the one being pointed out. A trace of helplessness flashed across Chun Ro Chio's heart. She had always thought that she had firmly grasped Shin Wan's heart, and also thought that she and Shin Wan would be in love for a lifetime. But until now, Shin Wan's attitude of protecting Song Zaiqing was like a ruthless slap that smashed Chun Ro Chio's self-righteousness. Shin Wan was no different from other men. He was still greedy for fresh things. She was no different from other women. Once she was old, she would have to give way to younger women. But those old women still had sons by their side, and could sit firmly in the position of the matriarch of the family. She did not even have a son, thus this position was in jeopardy. Old Shin Foreign looked at Song Zaiqing and slowly said, "Number 3, since you have touched others, my Shin family is not an unreasonable person, and naturally have to take responsibility. There is no one left in Chong Young Lady's family, and if Chong Young Lady agrees, it is better to go through the open path, and bring up a noble concubine. There is a lot of bad luck in this residence, so it should be washed away. Bringing up a noble concubine. Old Shin Foreign was clearly deliberately going against Chun Ro Chio, and was putting Chun Ro Chio's face down. Chun Ro Chio looked at Old Shin Foreign, and on Old Shin Foreign's wrinkled face, there seemed to be a flash of a smile. That smile made Chun Ro Chio's heart enlightened. How did she find out about Song Zaiqing and Shin Wan? It was when Old Shin Foreign instructed her to go to the western courtyard to deliver the cloth. It was not earlier or later, but at that time. Could it be that Old Shin Foreign did it on purpose? These days she was worried about Shin Yu, and could not care about other things. She did not find out about Song Zaiqing and Shin Wan, but Old Shin Foreign might have found out about it. Old Shin Foreign wholeheartedly wanted to bring a concubine for Shin Wan, and found out that Song Zaiqing and Shin Wan were in contact. One feared that she would not be happy, and perhaps she added fuel to the fire just for today's situation. To let Song Zaiqing enter the residence, and force her to such a situation. Old Shin Foreign. Chun Ro Chio's heart suddenly gave birth to infinite hatred as she gritted her teeth. Such humiliation. Unreasonable. Chapter 638. The general's residence in the Ding capital was originally decorated with flowers, and in the eyes of outsiders, it was only revered. But whenever the general's residence was mentioned, everyone would think of the formidable great general's hard work and heroic horse riding. But ever since the first household separated from the Shin family 2 years ago, and were removed from the Shin family, the general's residence declined at a speed visible to others. Even though Shun Gui and Shun Wan tried their best to use their careers to support the former glory of the general's residence, unfortunately the paths of scholars and military officials were different. Scholars relied on their brains and mouths, and if they wanted to obtain meritorious services, it would take a long time. Military officials were different. After fighting a battle and cutting off a few heads of the enemy, they could gain the respect of the people. After the decline of the general's residence, even though there was still a name, it was not as attractive as before. These few days, it was not easy to attract people's attention again, but bad news spread for 1,000 li. The most surprising thing was the matter in front of one's eyes. One did not know when it started, but there was a rumor circulating in the streets that the third master of the third household of the Shin family, Shin Wan, intended to divorce his wife. Among the 3 sons of the Shin family, other than Shun Xian, even though Shin Gui was smooth, he was too lustful and did not do things clearly. Shun Wan, on the other hand, was different from his second brother. He was clean and honest, and he was not overly lustful towards women. Although he would play around with his colleagues, He would not cause any messy trouble. He also cherished his feathers, and in everyone's eyes, he was a sophisticated and talented person. If he could endure for a few more years, his position would most likely be higher and higher. And those officials' Furens also had a good impression of Shenwan. Not because of anything else, but because Shenwan doted on his wife and daughter, and did not have any other female in the inner courtyard. It was inevitable that those officials' Furens would have some messy matters in their courtyards, and treated Chenroqiu with jealousy and envy. After all, it was not every day to meet a husband who only treated one person well. Who knew that at this critical juncture, when Xinyu was already married, Chenroqiu and Shenwan suddenly had the matter of divorcing their wives. The rumors in the streets were all true, so one said, "That is not so." One heard that it was because third Shenforen did not have a son. You see, now there is not a single grandson in the Shen residence. One cannot just end the line like this. Not to mention that second Master Shen brought concubines into the residence one after another. He also had 2 sons in the past. The third branch has never had a son. No wonder they are so anxious now. Speaking of which, third Master Shen's career is not bad. With such a big family business, it is a pity that there is no one to inherit it in the future. That Miss Chen's stomach doesn't live up to expectations, and she can't give birth to a son after all these years. She doesn't even allow her husband to take a concubine. She is truly rude. Normal people wouldn't have this kind of attitude. If I was third Master Shen, I would not be able to bear it. Even concubines are not allowed. TSK, such a virtuous and jealous woman, but still childless. It can be considered as one of a kind. Third Shenforen is really pitiful. The rumors in the entire Ding capital were all on Shenwan's side. Chenroqiu was originally a famous talented female in the Ding capital, and came from a scholarly family. Thus she was very popular in the circle of noble Furens. But this time, no matter if it was the common people, or those matrons who flattered her, or were on good terms with her, all of them unanimously accused her of wrongdoing. Perhaps it was because Chenroqiu lived too blissfully in front of everyone that it made others jealous. But now that that blissful life had a tendency to burst out, everyone was happy to gloat or hit her when she was down. In the Shen residence, Chenroqiu smashed the white porcelain vase in front of her with a bang, and the vase splashed into pieces on the floor. The floor was full of dregs, but Chenroqiu still could not vent her hatred and overturned the teacups on the table. Shiqing and Huai did not even dare to breathe loudly, and allowed Chenroqiu to create such a big movement. Chapter 639. Shameless, shameless, Chenroqiu screamed. That pair of adulterers forced me to such a situation, and it is actually my fault? Ridiculous. Idiot. The rumors outside were all unfavorable to Chenroqiu, and Chenroqiu had always wanted to save face, and always boasted that she was a young lady from a scholarly family. Now that she was said to be a shrew who was jealous and had no children, how would she be willing? It must be that slut who talked nonsense outside. Chenroqiu gritted her teeth. She had mentioned the divorce letter to Shenwan in a fit of pique. She had merely wanted to scare Shenwan, who knew that this news would spread to everyone on the streets and alleys, almost pushing her and Shenwan to an irreconcilable point. The most disappointing thing was that Shenwan hadn't even come to see her until now. It must be that slut who urged Master. Chenroqiu's nails dug deep into her palms. Old Shenforen was now deliberately promoting Song Zaiqing to go against her. Now that Xinyu's whereabouts were unknown, and Shenwan was bewitched by Song Zaiqing, in such a big Shen residence, there was actually no one standing by her side. One feared that the entire Ding capital would feel that she was the one in the wrong. Chenroqiu's heart suddenly felt a sense of helplessness of fighting alone. Madam, now that the old madam has given the order, what exactly should we do next? Huai finally couldn't help but ask. Either let Chang Zaiqing enter the residence as a noble concubine, or let Shenwan write a divorce letter. No matter which it was, Chenroqiu could not accept it. But in the Shen residence, she was indeed powerless. At this moment, her love for Shenwan had completely turned into hatred. She suddenly stood up and sneered. How can there be such a cheap thing in this world? The Shen family humiliated me. Could it be that I still have to comply? Pack up, I want to go back to the Chen family. Chen Roqiu returned to her maiden home. Master Chen was a prefectural official and was responsible for repairing all the big and small documents in Ming Qi's palace. Because he was a civil official and was well-read, Chen Roqiu had always considered herself to be from a scholarly family. Moreover, when old Master Chen was young, he was indeed the top scorer of the imperial court. Chen Roqiu's marriage to Shen Wan also had the intention of a marriage alliance between the Chen and Shen family. Of course, it was Shen Wan himself who chose Chen Roqiu. Even though Master Chen was not a person who was protective of his shortcomings, he paid great attention to the family's reputation, especially that pretentious and virtuous manner, which was almost the same as Chen Roqiu. Thus when Chen Roqiu was divorced or had the reputation of being jealous, old Master Chen would definitely be unhappy. The Chen family and the Shen family were destined to have an unclear lawsuit. When Shen Miao heard these words from Jingzhi's mouth, she was reading under the lamp. Jingzhi said, now that third foreign had returned to her maiden home, this matter would not be left at that. If they found out that those rumors were spread by young lady, what would happen? Those rumors in the marketplace were not spread by Song Ziqing, nor was it spread by Shen Wan, nor was it spread by old Shen foreign, but by Shen Miao. Shen Miao had interacted with the third household for a lifetime, and knew that even though Chen Roqiu thought highly of herself and loved Shen Wan deeply, unfortunately she was not stupid. When she just found out about Shen Wan and Song Ziqing's adultery, she would definitely be infuriated and do things impulsively. But after thinking about it, she knew that if she put on some grievances in front of Shen Wan would not completely forget about the old feelings towards Chen Roqiu and would soften a little. At that time when Song Ziqing enters the door, it would not be known who would emerge victorious between Chen Roqiu and Song Ziqing, but at least Chen Roqiu would not be defeated so easily. It would be better to let out some rumors. Chen Roqiu's heart would be even angrier, and her relationship with Shen Wan would only reach an irreparable stage. A female's vengeful heart was very scary, and it would be more interesting to stir up trouble. As a matter of fact, Chen Roqiu was really forced to return to her maiden home. Chapter 640. After taking this step, it would be very difficult to turn back. There would be cracks in both parties' hearts, and the reunion of broken mirrors was a story that would only appear in dramas. Shen Miao felt that there were many things that she could not see clearly in the inner palace in her previous life, but now from a different angle, with an outsider's identity, it was clear at a glance. To play with others in the palm of one's hand, even if it was an enemy, her mood was not that good. Perhaps it was because she would also think that when Mei Foreign looked at her, it was the same as how she looked at Chen Roqiu now. Do not worry. After pausing for a moment, she then said, it would not be that easy to find out. She had handed this matter over to the Feng Xian pawnshop to handle, and since she had accepted the money, Ji Yushu would definitely give her a good reward. The Feng Xian pawnshop had been doing business in the Ding capital for so long, so it was impossible that they did not understand this little thing. Jingzhi did not speak anymore, and seeing that the window outside was not closed, she wanted to get up and close it. As she was leaving, she said, why did Guyu forget to close the window all day? The weather is so cold and the cold wind would enter. What if young lady's body catches a cold? Wait. Shen Miao called out to her and looked at the window. Let the air in first. The room is very stuffy. Later I will close it myself. When Jingzhi saw Shen Miao's determined look, even though she had some doubts in her heart as to where it was stuffy in this bright room, she did not say anything. She then fried the wick of the oil lamp for Shen Miao and said, young lady should also rest early. Jingzhi withdrew. Shen Miao looked at the slightly swaying candle flame and was about to pick it up and walk to the side. Just as she was halfway there, that candle flame seemed to be flicked by something and shook violently. A familiar voice sounded, and with a playful laziness that had not been heard for a long time. Did you not specially leave the door open for me? Why do you want to sleep? Shen Miao turned her head back and saw the youth leaning on the window sill with one hand supporting his chin. A pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes casually looked over, lazy and charming. Even in the darkness of the night, one would not be able to ignore his radiance. He saw that Shen Miao was slightly startled, and his figure flashed and entered the room. Naturally, he snatched the oil lamp from Shen Miao's hands and walked to the small table to sit down. His actions were as smooth as flowing water, as if he was entering his own room. You have returned? Shen Miao asked. TSK. Xie Jingxing stared at her and said with a smile that was not a smile. Why did you miss me? Shen Miao was used to his frivolous and ambiguous words, and simply ignored him. He walked over to the small table and sat down. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows. You did well regarding Chun Roqiu's matter. Shen Miao rolled her eyes at him. You know again. Xie Jingxing's informants were all over the Ding capital, not to mention that Ji Yushu of the Fengxian pawnshop had some relationship with Xie Jingxing. Shen Miao let Ji Yushu go out to spread rumors, and one fear that Ji Yushu would tell Xie Jingxing about it, so Shen Miao did not care about it now. No wonder when Chang Ziqing came to the Ding capital, you had such an attitude. Xie Jingxing, however, was talking to himself and looked at Shen Miao again. One could not tell if his tone was admiration or sigh as he said half-truthfully, really vicious and merciless. Shen Miao declined to comment. Xie Jingxing seemed to have thought of something, and one did not know where he took out a box and threw it into Shen Miao's arms. Shen Miao was almost hit by that box and felt that the small box was heavy. When she subconsciously caught it, she saw that there was a big tiger carved on the outer shell of the box. The tiger's head was lively and had a bit of charmingly naive look, but the appearance of it baring its fangs and brandishing its claws was very fierce. Thinking of the white tiger called Jiao Jiao that Xie Jingxing raised, Shen Miao endured the anger in her heart and opened the box. When she opened it, she was almost dazzled by the colorful things in the box. She saw that the heavy box was filled with exquisite and luxurious jewelry. Not to mention that it was a full box. Even if it was just a single piece, it would be expensive. Why would Xie Jingxing give her jewelry for no reason? Shen Miao looked at him and shook her head. I do not need jewelry. Chapter 641. Xie Jingxing said, These are all valuable and hard to find. You're a girl. What's wrong with buying some jewelry? Shen Miao thought about it and asked, Perhaps Fengxian pawnshop can pawn it. Xie Jingxing choked on her words and asked with a frown, Are you short of money? Having more money is always a good thing. Many connections require money, and after a long time, it is inevitable that money will be tight. Shen Miao said frankly. Now that he was facing Xie Jingxing, he was not as vigilant as before. Thus his words were filled with anger. Anyway, Xie Jingxing's hands and eyes were everywhere, and there were some things that he would be able to find out by himself even if she did not tell him. So there was no need to go through the trouble of hiding it. When Xie Jingxing heard it, he took out a round jade token from his sleeves and said, This is the gold and jade private bank's token. Take this and withdraw however much money you want. He casually threw the jade token to Shen Miao and said with some displeasure, Don't be so blind all day. Shen Miao. She was after all an empress in her past life, and had seen a lot of gold and silver treasures. It was during her youth that she was fostered by the second and third household to have some vulgar tastes. Afterwards in the palace and in the Qing country, she was considered to have a lot of knowledge, but now she was written with a few stars and said that she had no eyesight, which made her feel somewhat sullen. But she picked up the jade tablet. She didn't know what material the jade tablet was made of. It was crystal clear and cold to the touch. Shen Miao knew that Xie Jingxing's words would definitely not lie. This jade tablet was indeed able to withdraw banknotes from Jin and Yu Private Bank. It was just that Jin and Yu Private Bank was the largest private bank in Mingqi, and even the imperial family would sometimes come and go from there. Xie Jingxing was now a person of the Great Liang, and to think that he could get this kind of thing, he was really too deep. Shen Miao returned the jade token back to Xie Jingxing and said, One will not receive a reward without doing anything. Xie Jingxing stared at her with interest and said, "Really have backbone?" He nodded his head to indicate Shen Miao to look at the box. "This is not ordinary jewelry. Take a look." Shen Miao was somewhat suspicious, and casually picked up a pair of jadeite rings. That jadeite was of excellent quality, and even if it was placed in a jewelry shop, it would most likely be a good item. As Shen Miao looked at it, she noticed that the buckle of the double hoop was somewhat strange. After carefully touching it, it was actually a hidden buckle. She looked up at Xie Jingxing. "What is this?" Xie Jingxing smiled. "Concealed weapon." "Concealed weapon?" Shen Miao fiddled with the hidden button and was about to press it down subconsciously, but was stopped by Xie Jingxing immediately following that. Xie Jingxing stood up and went around to her back. He wrapped his arms around her shoulders and taught her how to use the jade bracelets. "There are needles here. The poison needles might hurt our own people. Ordinary people will be knocked unconscious for a while if they are hit by the needles. It is effective within 3 inches. Don't put it anywhere. There's poison powder in the hairpin. Pulling out the hairpin can blind you. It can be used to deal with bandits. There's a blade hidden in the bracelet. Pull it open, and it's a small knife. If you are tied up with a rope, this substitute knife can cut the rope. There is a whistle in the 8 treasures earrings. If it is really urgent, you can blow the whistle. My people are everywhere in the Ding capital, and if there is any danger, they will rush over to save you." He carefully explained to Shen Miao one by one, and his words were not as frivolous and lazy as usual. There was a rare seriousness, and his long eyelashes were enough to make one's heart palpitate. His hands were slender and fair, and his beautiful peach blossom eyes were half closed. Occasionally he would glance at Shen Miao, and it was as charming as the rippling spring water. Shen Miao felt somewhat hot. The windows were clearly open, but there was a heavy stuffiness in the room. When he bent over, he looked down and saw that Shen Miao was almost leaning against his chest, and even her back seemed to be covered with a layer of sweat. She turned her head to look and saw that Xie Jingxing's beautiful lips were slightly upturned, as if he was always smiling. Shen Miao seemed to be scalded as she turned her gaze away. Chapter 642. She was somewhat distracted, and was noticed by Xie Jingxing. Thus he was somewhat dissatisfied. He knocked Shen Miao's head and said, "Concentrate." Shen Miao moved forward and sat a little further away from him, and pretended to be calm. "I have already seen it, and I have remembered it. I will practice again in the future." Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up. "Didn't you say no?" Shen Miao turned her head. "You remembered wrongly." With this turn of head, because Xie Jingxing was looking down at her, she almost bumped into him. Shen Miao was slightly startled, and her cheeks quickly turned red. This youth's brows were unreasonably handsome, and usually he was neither good nor evil, and was somewhat frivolous, but when he used that pair of beautiful eyes to look at you, it was as if the world received a chilly spring rain in one night of winter. Layers upon layers of red flowers bloomed in Brocade Official City, and it was indescribably romantic. Xie Jingxing laughed softly. His voice was as mellow as fine wine, and was so intoxicating that it made one a little flustered. Xie Jingxing stretched out his hand and brushed aside the stray hairs on Shen Miao's forehead. He carefully stared at Shen Miao's eyes and said with half doubt and half innocence, "Why are you blushing?" Shen Miao suddenly stood up and walked 2 steps with her back facing Xie Jingxing. "The room is too stuffy." It was because her back was facing Xie Jingxing that she missed the flash of smile in the purple-clad youth's eyes. "Because you feel ashamed of receiving a reward without any effort?" Xie Jingxing said without much care. "Simple. Just make some pastries." Finishing, he thought of something and said, "I have done many things but still could not exchange for it. It really makes one annoyed that someone could get it without doing anything." "What?" Shen Miao did not understand the meaning of Xie Jingxing's words, but she saw that Xie Jingxing had already stood up and said, "Never mind. Today I only gave you concealed weapons. These things are suitable for silencing people, and one think that it is to your liking." Shen Miao really wanted to retort, but felt that what Xie Jingxing said was indeed right. She lived on the tip of a knife, And even though she had the protection of the Shen family behind her, the things that she did were extremely dangerous. If there was a day that the Shen family could not protect her, she could only protect herself. This box full of hidden weapons that looked like jewelry was undoubtedly precious to her. Xie Jingxing was indeed a person who understood her. Thinking of how she treated Xie Jingxing as an opponent previously, Pei Lang's words in her previous life were indeed right. The opponent was the one who understood her the most. Xie Jingxing suddenly thought of something and said, "Do you know the whereabouts of Xin Yu?" Xin Yu. Xin Miao shook her head. She had the Shen family's informant, and knew that Xin Yu had escaped from home, and her whereabouts were unknown. Chen Roqiu's people had yet to find Xin Yu, and Xin Miao herself had also sent people to search for Xin Yu's whereabouts, but they returned without any success. Xin Miao also suspected that even though the Ding capital was big, it would not be to this extent to look for someone. Moreover, for a pampered female like Xin Yu, how many days could she endure outside alone? "You know where Xin Yu is?" Xin Miao asked. Xie Jingxing said, "She is in the residence of Prince Qin." After Xie Jingyan left, Shen Miao pressed her forehead before sitting down on the couch again. The candle flame in front of the small table was about to burn out. Xin Yu actually went to the residence of the Qin prince, and Xin Yu had a relationship with Huang Fuhao. In this lifetime, she had inexplicably changed the direction of many things. For example, Xin Yu's fate. Now that Xin Yu had entered the residence of Prince Qin, no one would be able to predict what kind of changes would happen in the future. Shen Miao touched her chest and saw that box. She reached over and picked out a pair of jade bracelets from the box and wore it on her hand. The emerald green bracelets made her wrist more slender and fair like a painting. It was originally an ice-cold jade ornament, but Shen Miao felt that it was slightly hot, just like a youth's eyes. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.